I can't believe I spent $10 on this bag of fucking cherries where like half of them are just like not.
Test, test. Yep.
Oh,
Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good.
I feel so ripped off right now.
Okay,
These and there's like a bunch of moldy ones.
oh, you got moldy cherries. That's a shame. Cherries are expensive, actually.
It's like 10. This was like full. It was like $10, and they're like not shitty cherries either. They're from Canada.
They're,
I think
they're,
it's just like
they're good if
the
they're from
fruit.
Canada? Oh, you're from Canada, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm from Canada, so they're like local-ish, and they're not grown like shit. I've had these from other stores. It's just that particular grocery store doesn't like know how like food works. So like everything's like spoiled. But you can't tell with cherries on the outside because they all look the same until you bite into one and then you're fucked.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
well,
unfortunate.
that's just the way life is today.
At least you're
I'm
getting
not gonna get up that are good.
at least you're getting decent quality produce, it seems like. I can't really say the same here unless I go to a farmer's market, and I don't always have time for that, honestly.
Because
It's
of you, I actually went out and found some like nice local garlic. I intend to like eat a raw clove every day again because I used to do that for like years actually, and I stopped for some reason.
yeah,
It doesn't taste so bad. Like
I started taking cayenne pepper on occasion, uh, instead of garlic. One of the reasons I wasn't taking garlic is I was taking an antacid. And weird thing about garlic, if you're taking an antacid, your stomach can't handle it, and you can actually throw up. And this happened to me a few times, so I had to stop that.
I had something similar with like I took like an antacid with like an acidic food, so like I don't know, tomatoes, garlic, and like orange juice and stuff like that. For some reason, it would just create this like this mixture that just did not want to be together. And I don't know what to even call that. I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, totally. Like even certain foods, I'll eat if I eat them too soon after the antacid pill, then I'll get a stomach ache and all that.
Sorry you go through that. It's like really common, even in people who like eat right. So, is there something in our air?
Yeah, there is stuff in our air. Lots of stuff. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's the stuff conspiracy theorists are worried about, but there's stuff. I mean, even in like groundwater, soil, you can measure these things pretty accurately. There's often things
100%.
like arsenic, which is not supposed to be there in that level of concentration. And it just keeps
Yeah,
building up because I feel in a very unfortunate way, global warming has kind of taken the idea of environmentalism, which is meant to be like an overall respect for the entire system of symbiotic nature,
yeah,
and it's kind of turned it into this like I don't want to say selfish, but like it's turned it into this very like goal-driven thing, which is like, we have to prevent the ice caps from melting, blah blah blah, and that's entirely noble. There is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's happening. I don't know how significant it is necessarily, but ideally we would have thought about these things a long time ago, before this was even a problem.
yeah. There's this way of decision making that's really old in my people's like religion, their worldview, or the way that their societies, I guess, function way back in the day. And it's don't make any decisions with leaders or like the council, I guess, when they come together, they're like, okay, how is this going to affect us 7 generations from now? How's the earth going to deal with it? How are the animals going to deal with it? Like where, like, are we going to be proud of ourselves like that far ahead? And they took it really seriously before they made decisions. And yeah, they understood that they were stewards of the land, like it didn't belong to anyone, and they were responsible for like taking too much from it, or yeah. But at the same time, I don't know. They were still ancient people. They still lit fires and had wars and shit. But it would be kind of nice to see some of that, at least the good parts of it, kind of come back. Especially in regards to like how like nature is everything to us, even though we feel very far away from it now. If there were no air, you couldn't breathe. You would die very quickly.
Yeah,
If there were no sunlight,
in a
everything
way,
would die quickly too.
we
Just,
kind of romanticize, like, those ancient times where, people were living off the prairie and all that.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I think they over romanticize it. They miss the part where it's like, no, you're a modern human now. You can be inspired by the way things were and kind of see where we like veered off from it and try to bring them back. But don't be like, oh, we need to freaking grow our own food and like just get away and go off grid and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, you're personally escaping from the problem. You're not being part of the solution. You're just not giving energy to anything, like good or evil. So you're just stagnant. It's like, why are you even here? You might as well be a tree.
so
And that's pretty much what I've been like for the past, probably most of my life. I've been in
you've been a
self.
tree.
Yeah, trying to stay out of like everyone's way. Um, and I think what that subconsciously communicated to myself was that, okay, so the last thing to do is to just not like actually be here. It's pointless. So that's not a very like constructive way for a living thing to think. It kind of goes against like everything that living things typically like do out there and like seem to enjoy doing out there. So like I had to come up with some kind of system that allowed me
It's actually kind of weird to me to think about
like
the
meaning.
to think about the idea of like animals out in the wild, and like, even plants to a certain degree, I guess, like really enjoying themselves. Like
Thank you. Have
they
you watched it long enough?
I'm sure they do. There's some interesting videos of like, dolphins playing and such. Killer whale. The more intelligent animals will sometimes do things that are more trivial, which is fairly ironic, really, if you think
Oh
about
my
it.
god. Like, um, one of the first pets that I got when we moved into this apartment in 2016 was a pet store goldfish. And we had no idea how like intelligent they were and how like honestly like playful they could be. Like I was like, okay, so I've seen videos of them pushing something for him to get food, but like what will he do if I just give him stuff to play with and like there's no reward. Just playing with the thing is the reward. And he does it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when
definitely.
it's time for him
That's
to eat in the morning, he's got like all the things going and he's like making like bubble noises and like almost jumping out of the water when he sees me pass by. No one else in the house. He recognizes me. It's a fucking
that's
goldfish.
actually honestly a great way to analyze it. Is there's lots of animals, people have them as pets. You can play with them. That you don't need to reward them. They'll just do it for the hell of it.
Yeah, but like we have this very like survivalism, like everything is about, oh, I need this from you, I'm taking this from you, kind of like transactional way of looking at like coexisting other species when really they're just as fascinated by you as you are with them, man. Like they're on their own kind of like evolutionary path, their own level of awareness. Like, everything's about them just as much as everything's about their world. There's all these psychological symptoms of the entire universe is out there.
Yeah,
Never
like
fully understand any of them because they're always changing so quickly. And it's awesome. And I feel like people don't develop like a deep reverence for one another just by like recognizing that they would rather zero in on the differences than the possibilities in relationships.
do you mean that just with regards to animals, or what are you trying to get at
Animals,
there?
animals, people, your loved ones, like yourself. I feel like people
So wait,
just need
you
to
wanna like create a framework by which we engage each other in a way which is not necessarily as wholly selfish as we may typically analyze social frameworks as.
yeah,
Is that a fair
and
interpretation?
like yeah, totally. Like I'm kind of sick of the every man for himself kind of thing, and like might is right, and like um,
Well, I'm working
kind
on
of
a
sick of the health shit too.
what's that?
No, no offense for y'all who like want to be Giga Chat or whatever, but like I eat Giga Chads for breakfast, or at least I used to. Like they're all fucking babies and they don't get anything done. The real power comes from like a simp who like believes in himself.
Well, that's
That's
you know the
one other.
that's like the anime trope almost, you know.
Yeah, but he's not doing it for like anyone but himself and like for what he believes in, whether he gets to like keep the girl or not, you know? Like he sees himself as part of something bigger.
Yeah, I'm sure Darian would love to hear that. That's exactly what his personal philosophy is just
Yeah,
like the
like
revitalization of the hero trope of not necessarily striving for like this very specific self-centered end goal where winner take all, etc., etc., which is unironically, or I should say ironically in this case, something we do develop from the media we consume as well. And I think it's interesting that there's often this divide between people who consume like anime media and people who consume like let's call it basic media, stuff that comes out of Hollywood, which has been
oh, not even that.
garbage
I
lately.
I consume like everything. Like if I hear something that is supposedly true, I'm like, okay, I want to learn about the people who have reasons for this not being true. Like, show me all the science for why the Earth is round, and then I want to get in the minds of the people who think it's flat and like where they went, like where their like interpretations of the data got like skewed by whatever their like I guess emotional foundations were. Like it's fucking fascinating, and it's only by like I guess holding space for all these viewpoints with the attitude of like wanting to find the commonalities and the truths to like actually take out and do shit in the world with. Like that's what gets me interested. Those are the groups that I stay in or that I try to like create. But everyone gets stuck at the point where it's like time to act almost. I think they are afraid of failure. I think they're afraid of looking stupid for standing up for something. And like I guess they don't know what to do with it because like you're gonna have to die on it eventually. Like pick
Well,
one.
it's just systemically, it feels like you're trying to, like, even if you do try and pursue these things with a honest and noble heart and do all the best you can, and you feel kind of like Sisyphus, that just push the boulder up the mountain, boulder goes back down, repeat, 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 and
If you believe you're alone doing it. And that's where I get into the connection thing. Like you're talking to someone who has like intentionally isolated themselves since childhood because I thought that I could figure out the way to just straight up like not need other human beings and to meet all of my needs and be that like great independent, like I guess like holier than thou spiritually
yeah,
awakened
yeah,
entity that's just like above all of it, and it's fucking bullshit. The thing is, humans only have so much space in their mind and like in their they only have so much space in them to do like carry out their purpose. They literally need other beings to like fill in the gaps for them. If you look at other humans as an extension of your own like mind and like your own soul and like your own health, even like the health of a community reflects back at you and how you like feel and treat yourself and stuff like that. So you're not just this is what I'm trying to like hammer across. And when you have any kind of experience where you can use psychedelics or whatever, or you can just go through like a really rough time and heal from it. But when you finally get that, it's really hard to like shut yourself off to it again unless you become like a fucking drug addict or something. And I just wish that it happens to more people in this age, this very critical time.
yeah. It's very easy to fall off a particular wagon, whether you set that for yourself or it's more of a societal thing. But when we're trying to pursue these different causes or avenues of change, whatever you want to call them, we often realize that issues are much deeper than we even were aware of before we wanted to do something about it. And just from talking to people, from getting as many viewpoints as you can, which is always something I advocate for, you start to get a sense of a wider picture. And this is not to say you can't solve individual problems, but the overall problem of humanity is often a lack of good communication. And just through having different systems, just kind of what I talked about in my last video, I want to develop better systems for making these great logical leaps that occur all over the world, and deep conversations other people are having at this moment. You can take these great ideas and take the best out of them and put it on a platform for all people to see. And that's not just about creating content; it's also about collaborating content, which is the basis for creating a better dialogue overall. Is just centralizing our ideas so that the democratic process can do what it actually needs to do.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, man. I think the isolation and I guess being able to think too big can also be like a curse, because I can see how people fall in and out of that that nihilism, just give up, get that feeling like pressure off of you. Because if you're a good person and you're awake in this age, you're gonna feel like a lot of responsibility for things that maybe you don't have the ability to like do anything about. It's like a very helpless, desperate kind of feeling instead of like you're being.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of anxiety about not necessarily specific issues, but just the broad issue of what are we doing here? What is the what's the plan? It doesn't feel like we have much of a plan. Terrence McKenna always said, "Don't be afraid, nobody's in control," or something like that. Which is it's an ironic quote, but for a good reason. And that is, the world is just so chaotic and so complex and constantly changing that it would be actually quite hard for any specific interests to truly control, with a great deal of authority, the degree to which we could perform our own different ways of looking at things, different ways of there's a new person here.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, finding some kind of I guess it's the slow, steady process of figuring out what baseline human rights are, and how that's, I imagine, being enforced in most countries in the world. I hope. We're kind of moving toward what is the standard for how humans and eventually animals should be treated, how to give the right level of moral consideration to all things that live here, while still being able to meet our interests without having to suffer. I think it's just more kind of that attitude of minimize suffering as much as possible and do whatever it takes to be in a state of creativity and not being stressed out all the time. And this brings me back to the health thing. You were saying that literally anything could be used to send a system or the body into chaos. But if you look across different cultures and across time, and especially in alternative healing, there's very similar themes. Maybe they're carried out a little differently in each cultural context, but there's the energy healing, there's the herbs, there's all these different things. There's
this is just
there's all these different practices that can assist with taking care of the body and the emotions and the whole thing.
Well, with life as opposed to just I suppose base physical reality without any consciousness within it. I don't want to say death. Death is is not necessarily the correct terminology. But life, you have to kind of cultivate it, right? You can't just you know, take anything out of anywhere and use that to what you want. It's not like alchemy in the literal sense. Like there's a process by which anything you want to cultivate, which aids the process of life and healing, facilitates your own development as a person. You have to go through the process of making that thing a thing. You have to engage with
Gotta
the
turn all
rigor
that
and
shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like I totally know what you mean. You have to. In alchemy, I think they call it like turning base metal into gold. That's kind of what it's like.
yeah, but you still have to start with the base metal, and that
Yeah,
comes out of a long process too. It came out of the
like
earth.
a pile of shit, more like, in, for some people, I guess. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's like a very
But no,
painful,
that's
heavy
fair actually.
process.
A pile of shit, right? Like even something as entirely useless to us as that eventually becomes part of this wider process. You have manure. You use manure to grow food. Food keeps you alive. It's all part of a very complex system.
Yep. And it takes a very brave person to kind of like face what goes into even something as simple as like having a good time. Like there's always like a victim, there's something being like changed or like disrupted in order for you to just move about and like the world. And I guess having like respect for that and trying to like achieve balance in every sphere is like a pretty good way to become the kind of person you might want to listen to. Like when we can find examples, I guess, of like teachers. I don't know a lot of them in cultures, but I just have a feeling that a lot of them are there saying pretty much the same shit throughout history. Why don't we start basing our values as a society around the stuff that they spent like whatever amount of years meditating in a fucking cave to figure out? Because those might be what are in best interest in this time period for all living things, and probably what will help us evolve like
I
into what we actually want to become.
I have this weird kind of theory that at some point we developed language, right? It happened at some point. It wasn't right away. It probably took us a while, a lot of trial and error. Pointing at things, being like, "Ooh, ooh," that's what that means, etc.
Pretty much.
But I think, there's this fable. Uh, I want to say it may be from the Bible. I'm not even sure, honestly. But the one where they're all building the tower, and then that they're trying to like ascend to heaven or whatever, and they are not able to succeed because they all end up speaking different languages. What Tower of Babel, I believe, is called. Is your
Yeah.
camera okay? No, you're just
Oops.
something wrong
Oh,
with
I
your.
pressed a little thing that looks like a phone. 1 second. There it is. Okay, apparently it worked better when I was looking at Joe's screen, like open, and then there's just like me in the corner. Is that okay?
You're fine. You're fine. I just.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think with having like the like all the little icons where everyone's like voice thing lights up when there's like when it's like, so I'm just gonna stay on the screen, but Joe's like playing me.
So
Okay, sorry, but
let me finish my analogy. I think when we invented like global communication, I think we actually had some kind of phenomena that was similar to this, similar to the splitting of languages. Because when you take like every idea that has existed in the entire world and you put it all into this mainframe that anyone can access, I think the subjective points that are, inherent to every particular work, whether it's philosophical or whatnot, I think a lot of things get lost not just in literal translation, but in translation of subjective meanings of words, deeper meanings that might be missed due to the codification, the objectification of language, because we had to. I think there was a shift at some point when we engaged with the global communication network, where we had to kind of like all tune into each other, and we had to not just on the level of language, but on the level of like the way that we use language to make sense of reality. 1 second.
Yeah, it became very reliant on like quantities and like increments of like time and like measurement. I think with like English, everything's trying to. The feeling when I speak English is just like trying to put everything in like a box or like give it like a definite imposition of space, even with like ideas and stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely something to that.
Or something. It's like other languages even function like that. I know with like the Ojibwe language, but even the way that they named like certain roles in like relational roles. Like I think the term for elder is Ichi-aya, which means great being. And what does old person mean in English? Like there's
Right.
like like it's on this being like the path of like decay and like where usefulness has ended, whereas in Ojibwe it's about like, oh, you're just freaking dope now, like you have so much like insight and so much to offer the generations that came after you, and you're the closest one to the spirit world right now, and like you're awesome. Especially the grandmothers, like I forget what the word is for them, but it literally means the one who holds everything together.
Wait, what
Like
means
she
that?
would have been the one who holds the family together.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So when you have tools like that built into your language, like what, like that kind of already instills values in you, like from the start. It's like, do I want to become a great being, or do I want to just like burn out and decay and become useless?
Yeah, like what even happens like on the level of a child's consciousness when they have to like go through the process of learning the differentiation between good things and bad things, right? It seems like such a basic distinction to us, but to a kid, if someone's yelling saying that thing is so bad, it's horrible, it's caused me pain, etc., they understand the emotions, right? They don't understand necessarily like cause and effect. They don't understand how you're supposed to react. Oh, there's someone else there. Oh, hey, Ryu. We're recording this, by the way, just to let you know. You can speak though if you want.
It's okay to not as well. I already learned all y'all here to listen to my like sleep deprived ass, so like I'm just happy as a pancake right now. I get to be part of the recording. Yeah. Okay, please. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be another channel. It's gonna be podcasts on it. I've recorded 2 already, so just gotta get around to it. But yeah, back to language. I think the way that language comes about, we think of it as a very static, like defined thing. But if you look at etymology, which is the study of the roots of language, these things are constantly shifting and taking new forms. And even within like say Europe, for example, when Europe was trying to like figure out all its different borders, who's who, who's Italian, who's French, blah blah blah. You got to think like at some point, all these people were interacting with each other, but then they decided, we're gonna lay down our tribe here, you're gonna lay down your tribe there, and even before that, you would imagine there would be language though. So
Yeah.
you go through these subjective interpretations of things that are previously static, and then you get new languages, and they sometimes resemble each other, but not entirely.
Yes, please.
What's up? You weren't coming through. Hello?
Yeah,
Oh, you there?
I
Okay.
can you.
they settled things by war. You were saying?
Yeah, no, I'm just explaining, language, it probably started out some level of baseline, right? We had tribes, but, in order to establish countries, those tribes eventually had to come into contact with each other, and they were most likely aware of, the neighboring tribes, right?
Yeah.
So, through a long process of, probably a lot of violence, honestly, you eventually get distinct borders, and from there you have subjective interpretations of what may have been originally a the same system.
Yeah, there's definitely, I've noticed, possibly even with like animals of like more intelligent species, is the more they kind of, that when they're entering the level of consciousness that is separating, so like they're developing an ego and a sense of self and being different from those and like everything around them, start running into shit like boredom, unwarranted like aggression, just I don't know. That just seems when animals start just acting like shit disturbers. Like, have you seen monkeys? Like, have you seen crows and dolphins and stuff? Like, they have full stomachs. They have all this territory to occupy, but because they're bored and they want to like see what happens, they'll go and like stir shit up with another hog or whatever. I totally see that in humans too. It's like they can't. It's like they can't handle things being good for too long. They have to be like working towards something, and unfortunately we've unified over in the past typically is like conflict of some kind. Like it's always has to be some kind of problem or some kind of enemy, um and then as soon as the enemy's taken care of, everyone goes back to being like, I don't know, just shitting to one another. What's up with that? How do we stop that?
Yeah. I mean, infighting as well as outfighting. We shouldn't necessarily assume, just because we have a country and the country's at peace and all that just because on a very surface level we can agree on let's not have chaos in the streets and all that. Uh, deep at a deeper level, there's constant strife and division, and we're kind of setting up the possibility for another subdivision. I don't want to say it would necessarily happen in such a barbaric way as has happened in the past, but um, hopefully, those things don't split us. They just become catalysts for more unified systems, which is what I just always try to advocate for. Is don't hate on people just because they disagree with you, especially if you're talking about improving the future of the world. I mean, if everyone has best intentions, then you should assume that if you're squabbling amongst yourselves, maybe you need to do a little bit more of a self-reflection there.
I guess even though I fancy myself a pretty like passive and allowing and forgiving kind of person, but I think something about me kind of commands like silent respect from people, even just in public, because out of nowhere I have a tendency to just like hit people with a curveball when I first meet them or something. Like they're not used to being asked questions, like certain questions that would show me very quickly who they really are, but not by being invasive either. Like I give them an out for it, but I guess people just aren't used to someone actually taking interest in like how they like perceive things, just like as a being, like where they came from, what their plans are, like what they create, like, and it's not in comparison to anything either. So
What kind of
apparently,
things would you like draw to a person's attention? If you were just to meet them, give me some kind of example. Like, what's your
well,
general approach or perspective?
you see in people where the I kind of like, okay, you can blame your parents all you want, but like it's not like the full picture. It's like society, your parents, and everyone around you when you're growing up pitch in on making you the kind of person who grows up and like continues the shitty patterns. Like I guess I have a way of making people kind of aware of where they're doing that to others, or where they are putting that out into the world, or validating ideas that we don't need to have like going on. So like, I highlight the good things about people, but I also make them look at the stuff that's like, yeah, maybe I can do something like that. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying that like, wouldn't it be satisfying to not be stuck with that anymore? And like, what if you had support the entire way without anyone like dragging on you if you like fall off the wagon a few times? It's just I don't know. I have a weird way of supporting people and kind of hearing the shit out of them in the right ways at the same time.
Well, one thing I experience myself is, you have to know where to draw the boundary between like just like comforting a person and also being able to be a little bit more forward and pragmatic with them at the same time, because sometimes another person can really like demonstrate to you things that you don't really pick up on yourself. I mean, that's the benefit of self-actualizing with others, is you don't have to do everything yourself, and nor should you, because at the end of the day, like, as humans, it's our job not just to make our own lives as ideal as possible, but it's our job, and I would say our like joy as well, to delight in the existence of other people. I mean, you can do all these wonderful things for yourself, but at the end of the day, other people are like a necessary component of your own state of being,
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
shouldn't
I find it
underestimate that.
interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I find it interesting that even like other hardcore introverts that I knew, that their favorite hobbies and that which brought them the most joy were actually dependent on observers, like external observers. Like for me, it was art. It's like I don't care what people think, and it's like then why do you pour so much of yourself into this thing that is dependent on like others' consumption and like relating to? It's just kind of fun. Like
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
that that like nobody else needed to see, but it was always art that like just filled a void for me somehow.
It's like there's different ways of approaching that. On one hand, like some people do things just to be cool or impress other people. Other people do things because they really want to express themselves. And there's a spectrum there too. I think on some level we all need to do both, really. And unironically, you should strive to impress people to a certain degree. But you should also always be trying to do something that expresses your own inner truth and whatnot. So, but one side gets stigmatized heavily just because there's people who take that to the extreme, just pander, basically, don't let their own being shine through in their works, and you can pick up on things like this, and I think that's a losing strategy in the long term.
Yeah, but that's how they probably survived like shaming or like abuse.
Yeah,
Growing up.
yeah,
Like they
definitely.
had to protect themselves by like suppressing like a part of themselves that like the parents didn't approve of. So like the first thing that I want to do with someone who is extremely similar like to your people is basically like what I needed when I was coming out of my shell, and that's like exposure therapy, like congratulating them or like building them up. It's like no, like fight back. If you don't want to do this thing with me, like tell me straight up. Like figure something else. If you don't want to hang out to me, like that's totally fine. I literally just want you to be happy. They need that reassurance and those spaces where they can just like get all that pent up like expression out. So like I want to see them play angry video games. I want to see them like just get into, I don't know, go paintballing or some shit like that. Like it's amazing seeing people like release all of that. Like the super shy, like it's like a timid little girl, and it's like, have you ever played like this game before, like Call of Duty or something? Like little grandma playing Call of Duty, and she's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
into
I think
to,
I think that's why we kind of like that anime trope of like this weird fusion of opposites, like the really really tough guy who's also like, you know, kind of shy anytime he meets a woman or something like that, or like, you know, this girl who's like really petite and young, or like basically a kid almost, but like she's also like very fiery or something, you know, and we like that kind of contrast, I think.
because we know deep down that we're just as like multi-dimensional, and we have all these wonderful like contradictions that we can use to make shit happen in the world and have all these great like experiences. It just really sucks that a lot of the time those aspects were like treated as something negative, and we have to like do all of this work unwinding like programming.
Hey, Knight.
Get to a place where
Wait, one second,
Yeah?
1 second. We're recording right now. You can speak though if you want to. I'm just letting you know.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh, Cole, what's up?
So this is one of the recordings.
Potentially, yeah. You know, I would hope so, assuming all goes well. Let's have a decent conversation.
So, do you know everything that's going to be happening? Like, did you... Hold on.
It's a little broad.
Because you never really gave me a lot of information. You just said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be recording this, you know, sometime."
Hey, Knight, listen. We're having a conversation already, so I want to stay online with what we're already doing. But feel free to.
I'm not trying to stop anything.
No,
I'm just-
I know.
I guess
Okay,
it was first-
that's fine.
Just
first,
like chime in if you have any opinions, please.
Yeah, I would just lay back because you're talking about anime, and I'm like, I don't know any of that.
Yeah, that's great. You don't announce that you're not informed on the topic.
Yeah, I don't play games, I don't watch anime, I don't really explore music either. I'm kind of I guess an alien.
I play like 2 games.
I promise I'm not this fucking boring. I just literally haven't slept in 2 days. But like I'm super happy to be here actually. I feel like I haven't actually this might be the first time that people in a similar age group as me like are talking about stuff like this, because in other groups it's like boomers, it's people who have already, I guess, feel like they've served their purpose and have their big hurrah, and they just want to bask in the love and light stuff as they're, you know, simmering down mission. And that's really nice to be like. It's really calming and grounding. At the same time, it's like, okay, clearly I'm on a stage where I can actually affect things and people around me now. So like, what am I going to do? Are there others who feel the same as me? Can we help each other out? Like, how do we just not, you know, do the same boring and holistic stuff that everyone else is doing?
I think old people, you know, you think on one hand like, you know, they're just checking out very slowly, but I think on another hand, like some of them are, or I'd say a fair amount of them are still quite boisterous about their opinions and thoughts and such, and
Oh, yeah.
you know, just the fact that they
Ones
are.
that
What's that?
The ones that I keep around are definitely like that. Like I don't think that youth has much to do with biology so much as it is a mindset and a dedication toward alignment with the things you actually want out of life. So like you prioritize like your health, your, you know, like the 3 levels of being, like your body, your mind, and your spirit. They take that shit very seriously, like that's before anything else in your life. And it seems to have worked very well for them. Like they were very successful, and they have family and friends who just love them, and they just seem really well connected and strong people. Like those are my person, I guess, heroes. Like I don't really give a shit about, like, I don't know, some dude who like made one thing and pieced out. I care more about the people who have lived long enough to have all of these like regrets and stuff, and just keep finding a reason to keep on going, encouraging. Those are my mentors, and I guess that's why I'm here, kind of like feeling out where you guys are at, because what they're telling me is like, you know, we're not going to be around forever, and we see like the spark in you that you could use if you really wanted to
think
make something new.
I think between, you know, intergenerations, I think there's even some kind of an energetic play there, where, you know, the older generations, they see the new generation, all their enthusiasm, potentially new ideas, things that, you know, they want to realize in this life, and, you know, they're just trying everything they can to, like, you know, put together something that's gonna carry them through the rest of their lives. I think they see all that, and, you know, apart from just, like, direct wisdom, I think that there's some kind of a spiritual networking that occurs where they try to impart, like, through their own actions, however trivial they may seem, through their own words, a kind of constant wisdom that has been embedded in, like, almost our DNA in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think maybe you would be sympathetic to this idea as someone with Native American heritage, because there was a huge component of that within those societies where, you know, as we were talking about in a small section that got kind of erased from existence, sadly.
It's okay. We're back.
Yeah.
Are Native Americans, like, are they gone? Is there none of them left?
Oh wait,
no,
just
there's
mean, like, Americans when they actually had like autonomy and like you know, their culture was intact. Like I guess, or natives before the white people came.
I think he's asking. I'm honestly a little bit confused how he doesn't know this. Like how many
fucking native people and stuff.
the audio's getting all mixed up. Can you guys repeat that?
Real life, homegrown, 100% like Ojibwe, Indian, like that's me. I just look white. There's a lot of natives up here that look white. We're like fucking chameleons or something. I think it's because of the varying sunlight at different times of the year. You know, the seasons and stuff. But like, yeah.
Wait, so when you say you're native, you don't actually just mean like, you know, 1/16 or something? You're actually like,
Can I just show you guys like a picture of my dad?
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
You're comfortable.
Take your time. So,
Sorry,
Knight, what? Oh,
Let's go. Yes.
What were you asking me?
let's wait for her to grab the picture.
Okay. I had two questions. I'm just waiting until people are done to answer them. One of them was just that I asked there. Then the other one, like, when Sev said she was surrounded by like boomers, I'm wondering like what age group were these people? Because like, aren't boomers supposed to be like elderly? I doubt there's a lot of like people in their 60s.
Yeah, like what I understand, boomers to be are in their 60s and above right now.
So, when you mean like on Discord, because didn't you say something about that?
On Discord. Oh, you mean like the other groups that I'm a part of?
Yeah.
Through Facebook. They're through Facebook, yeah.
Oh,
I would love to see the underground boomer community on Discord.
Just as digitally challenged as them. And I guess the funny thing is that the reason that I hit it off with them so well is because they're like, okay, you're the first one person that actually makes sense to us. We feel like we know you, like we relate to you so much. It's just so odd that you're in a young person's body right now. So when they talk to me, that's the people like the life experiences, like, sure, you get a house, a car, you build stuff up, you have kids and family, but you don't have any relationships. They trust in people and
Is anyone else like having trouble hearing
Yeah,
this?
can you speak up? Can you speak up somewhat, please? Your mic seems to be distorting or something. I don't hear anything right now.
Me neither. The server's cursed when it comes to people in VC.
Don't say that. Come on, we can figure it out.
how about now?
Yeah, you seem good.
Okay, as long as I'm off of that thing that has all those screens on it, I think. Okay, sorry. Like, what were you saying? Not Batman, but the other person.
Hold up. I think I should do the same so it lags a little less. Never mind, whatever. So what were you saying?
Yeah. Situation because they were talking to me like I was an equal, but just in like just to be in a different like incarnated in a different period. So they didn't treat me as like a like I don't know a student or like anything that was like below them in any way. The stuff that they taught me they didn't easily apply at like any age where you know kind of thing. That's the kind of like wisdom I'm grateful to have like on tap whenever pretty much. And it wasn't easy. Yeah. This group of people were pretty much like the face of all of the years that I experienced as a human. It took a lot of bravery for me to be like, okay, what do we have in common? These people were pretty amazing though because they were into like the UFO stuff, they were into spirituality, consciousness and physics and that. Shared that in the city, so like in person, really close to actually hear and see people. So I kind of got over myself. I was like, wow, we're the same that matters, and then everything else will just fall into place. Like I don't care if they was gender, I don't care if they were like exposed to the same media as me. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. We're all after the same thing.
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you view that through the lens of, old people are kind of, just culturally different from us. If they misgender you, obviously you can correct them and they can learn and such, but to a degree, this is just such new information to them that they don't know how to make sense of it in their heads. They've had this very long cultural mainframe that they've been dealing with and exchanging with, and when these ideas come seemingly out of nowhere to them, it a lot gets lost in translation, so to speak. And like my grandma, for example, she doesn't even really know how to turn a computer on, like and just it seems like it's just them getting old or whatever, but it's also the fact that like you go through this learning process through the first several decades of your life where like you're basically establishing for yourself like what is like the correct way of operating and understanding, and even physical things like using a touch screen. Like old people have a very difficult time with that. So you create like this happens most noticeably like when you're an infant. You have a very plasticized brain and you're trying to make sense of all this weird stimulation. But this process goes on for a while, maybe as far as into your 30s or 40s even, where you're able you're able to process new information in such a way so as to adapt your own brain, and you do lose that over time. Like, you get so used to things, so used to ways of doing things. It doesn't necessarily make you always worse at the things you've already done. Like, there are some old people who are still really good at what they do. I mean, I've seen some interesting world records out there, you know.
Yeah, but you know what sets them apart. So they learn how to connect beyond just the people. Like, people have been for centuries, just like tradition of is proximity. So you had pretty much that plasticity guaranteed. Like, you would have grandma like leaving kids, and like kids are like great for old people because they're always doing something that you have to like quickly adapt to, or like they're yeah, you learn a lot just by like being around people who are like way younger or like way older than you. And there aren't really spaces that are like, maybe some spaces on the internet where that's, I guess, carried out in like a healthy way. I would like to see more of that, like ageism, that weird ageism thing needs to like fucking stop. Okay, everyone has access to the internet now. We're like, once you're over 18, you're pretty much all the same age. You can look at, you're all eating from the same trough now, pretty much. Like,
Yeah.
there's no excuse to not go learn about something.
I see a lot of people who are like, supposedly of a particularly mature age, and when they interact with people online, it's like they haven't fully immersed themselves in the culture yet, and they say things, they may say things that make themselves either seem like a total ass, or just like totally out of touch with like the dialects,
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just me coming into this group, like, sure, I'm like a self-imposed isolation alien, but then there's just like, I feel even some of you who are only like, what, 5 years in the movie, and like you're using memes that I had no idea until literally like 10 or less now. So thank you for that. But I just feel like that old like Steve Buscemi meme from the show where he's got like a skateboard and he's just like, "Hey, fellow kids," like that was me coming into this group.
Yes.
But I remember like the elders were telling me that you can't let the barriers like that. Like, you can't let that kind of shit be a barrier. It just means that it's an opportunity for you to practice your relational skills, because if you have, like there's more like differences to navigate. The better you get at like finding common ground with people who are just like way different than you, then the better you can, I don't know, like just contribute to like a group effort, or like coming up with action solutions for things without getting lost in like the embedded in you, or I thought you, like that kind of competitive ego-based kind of thing, which is fun when the time calls for it, but
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and
people might be getting tired of it. I guess just like the echo chamber feeling. Even when they are technically right, it doesn't do anything for them. They're just like, yeah, I'm right about how everything sucks, and just kind of like feeding for that like nihilism. And I think that's kind of like where our generation is going wrong a little bit. I mean, as crappy as things are now, they're probably better than they've ever been when you look at like the rest of history. You guys ever heard of like the Leviathan, like some old like torture devices, like where they would basically just drop someone in a hole until they died, like from isolation or starvation or whatever. That shit was not that long ago, really. When you look at like how long humans have been around. I'm not saying that like everything's great now, but comparatively, holy shit, leaps and bounds.
But if you relate,
change faster as things change like faster, it's like an exponential thing.
if you relate that though to like the general sentiment of older people though, a lot of them take an attitude that is kind of antithetical to that. They reminisce for the good old days, even though we have all these great technologies that enhance our lives, they feel like, in a way, they had like the golden era of like their particular segment of history, where like now we're just overstimulated, and nothing has meaning anymore, and etc. etc. I'm sure you've heard these things a million times. I'm not necessarily agreeing with them. I'm just saying like this is the standpoint they take is not necessarily as optimistic as you might want to be about the continual upward momentum of humanity.
It's interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the link to the last like Vsauce video that I saw like 6 years ago. It was literally titled Jubanoia, and all it talks about is how like I guess current generations will look at ones that come after them with this kind of like they don't know how like bad we have it or like how great things used to be. Now they're just running around and changing things and with all these new ideas and this new music and like I get it. I've been guilty of that too. Like until I realized like hey, like I'm not actually having fun anymore. What's the point of me like separating myself from just people who happen to be born after me? Like they're still people. They like I can learn from them. I can keep current with them just like by proximity. Like why? Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a separation and ego-based thing, and I see it with like every age group, all cultures, etc. So I think it's just a human thing that we really got to bring awareness into and try to get under control a little bit.
Kind of getting back to something I was saying before, though, I think that even in this egoic state and this potentially bitter state that there's going to be other people living beyond their years for a long time to come, I think that they do still impart some level of wisdom because when you've been on this planet for so long, yes, your senses do muddy and you have a hard time keeping track of new things, but at the same time you have this kind of database that you've had and collected for a long period throughout your life, and you can to a certain degree impart the best lessons of that collection of memories you've accumulated through your life to the younger generations through any number of means. I mean, it can be through more compassionate means, it can be through more critical means, and even
I find that like art and humor definitely softens the blow, like whether you're talking to young people or older people. But yeah, I know what you mean. Keep going, sorry.
Yeah, like I don't want to sound like a conservative here. Like I'm not someone who's like, we need to all go back to the olden times, blah blah blah, where everything made sense and there were only two genders, blah blah blah. I don't.
It's absolutist thinking. Like you can take elements from conservative.
Yes, like
that's all it is, right?
What they did worked for them for a time, right? They had their own social systems, ways of looking at the world, ways of interacting with other people. You can kind of like extract from that, You can take what they know and you can reinterpret it and reformat it into your own picture of the world and create something that would be better than if you were just alone, without their influence.
Yeah, it just sucks, like the black and white thinking and splitting that people have a tendency to do now because they're in that state of separation so heavily. It's kind of like we have borderline personality disorder, just like as a species, and the symptoms are like really heavy right now. We freaking like we're always like we read neutrality as like negativity. We're always looking for like I guess dangers where there aren't any. We're like paranoid of each other. We have these like we create these like delusions and generalizations and stuff like that. Like it's literally just like ego gone out of control. And like if you look at the treatments for borderline personality disorder, it can get better over time with like the support and like behavioral therapy and like meds and stuff like that. So if you can take the elements of that and apply it to like a shitload of people, maybe it's just like another case of like something working on a small scale that like works on a larger scale. because everything in the universe is made up of really small things. Everything big up there is like made up of really small things. So,
I kind of feel like, though, with our modern treatment of, whatever disorder you want to lay out, um, I think we kind of limit ourselves in our scope of ability to deal with whatever it is uh, by defining it as a disorder and saying it has to be treated. Because
well,
I've.
but what I was kind of gonna get into with that personality disorder, it comes from childhood trauma and a lack of like they can't regulate themselves emotionally because they were not given a stable like emotional foundation to build a healthy sense of self-affirm. So their only source of love and protection could also be like a source of pain and danger. There's no consistency there. And then you combine that with like shame for the attempts that the child does, like, try to connect. And like they have to, I guess, stuff a lot of certain feelings down, and they're just like so sensitive because they don't feel they have like the support of caregivers that they like have to lash out to get what they want, and it just all of these things kind of like build up as a result of that lack of safety and connection that they deserved, like, and like having their boundaries always like encroached upon too. Like kids have boundaries. Don't make them go up and like kiss the fucking like aunt that they don't like if they don't want to. We kind of like screw them over a little bit by like making them do these things that they don't want to, and it wouldn't hurt anyone if we honored them not wanting to do it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
stuff like
really,
the forcing the kiss of the ants, like you said.
yeah,
It's kind of like a ritualistic hazing of sorts.
exactly.
And I personally feel it's very toxic when people try to do this. Like, obviously, the kid feels a certain way, right? Like, you shouldn't. I know you have your own notions here, right? You want the kid to love their family, blah, blah, blah. But they need to show their own form of love. And, one of my favorite quotes from a song, it's so simple. It's from a Radiohead song, is different types of love are possible. And that's such a like wide, like opening quote, because if you just consider for a second, like, we have these very normative social interactions, right? You do this thing to say this thing, you show you like this person by doing this, blah blah blah.
Kind of
The,
obligation driven.
yeah,
Almost
yeah.
like, yeah, it's like kind of transactional. Nobody's really present and present.
And I think the goal should be instead to be more artful, like, have your own degree of originality. It doesn't mean you have to be, doing all these crazy things all the time that, no one expects, or blah, blah, blah. It's more like, you can engage constructively without having to feel like you are directly imitating anyone, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Like you can have yourself and like other people as well, occupying the same space and like being psyched about things together. Like I know how I watched you guys. I listened to you guys playing Among Us earlier, and I was just like, holy shit! These people, their energy is infectious. They're having so much fun. They're like all in on this thing that they're like doing together, and I'm just like, I don't even have to see what's going on. I'm just here for this. This is what I love to like. This is what I encourage whenever I'm part of like a group, I guess. Like, yeah. And I think envy would have been something that I would have felt toward a lot of you for being so like intellectually oriented, like very like almost like a computer in the way that you like think and like
well,
reduce things. Like I wanted to be a scientist when I was younger, but like my brain is just not set up for that. So where I would have been like jealous and like feeling crappy about myself and feeling like competitive and passive aggressive, now I've learned how to use envy as kind of like a spark to like light a fire under my ass to maybe get a little bit of whatever they're having in my own version. To use it as inspiration, like
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, they're really good at this thing that I want to also be good at. So maybe I should like support the thing that they're doing and then feed off of their enthusiasm. So then it's like feedback.
That,
You know what I mean?
yeah, that's like the
Why
flip.
can't people of being jealous more like that? Like, why does it always have to be like a competition?
That's like the flip side of, you know, the seven sins and all that is like, you know, you can take those and you can apply them to something which is meaningful to you. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a selfish driven thing. It sometimes can be, you know, sometimes you just have to do things for yourself. But at the same time, like, um, something that may on the surface seem negative can be turned into something positive. You know, something like, you know, like you said, jealousy. You know, if someone's, you know, even like in a very like egregious sense, greed can be a motivator for innovation sometimes. I mean, I don't tout the benefits of capitalism in this sense because I feel like, you know, there are better ways to go about this, but you can't deny that there is a basic function which encourages certain people to do things which are beneficial for society by pursuing, you know, their own selfish interest. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, you can have both, but if
it's just balance.
literally everything at the end, as cliche as it sounds, comes down to your taking responsibility for your own free will, um, participating in life, like believe it or not, relationships define life and movement and growth as a human being creature. Like we are literally so dependent. Like if you want a good birth, you need people there. If you want to have a good death, you need people there. It's just so. I don't. It just amazes me how we've forgotten something so simple, and like how we've let it get so bad that like this is where we are on the planet right now.
Yeah,
But
and
like
to me
I'm
it
offering a solution, you're offering like a way of being where you don't have to put so much energy into being the change you want to see. You just work on your freaking self and focus on those within your reach, those who like you have a good connection with, and those who like are open to your advice, rather than I don't know, just like picking fights on Reddit or something. Like I just see so much like talent out there, but everyone's like they just don't know where to put it or how to use it, and they think that they'll have people backing them. Just so
yeah, it's sad,
these are the
and
things that keep me up at night. I'm sorry.
you know,
I'm
if
just some random person who grew up in.
totally. And if I was to apply like a flip side to what I said before about like capitalism motivating like selfish interest, on the other hand, there's a lot to be said about just like enabling people who aren't, you know, necessarily fully capable of, you know, motivating or funding or lifting themselves up to, you know, create whatever their vision is, you know, whether it's artistic or otherwise. Just, you know, enabling people like that who are, you know, maybe not entirely capable of doing their own things to do their own things through whatever means, you create so much more wealth than you could even ever dream to generate yourself, right? You know, you can have a billionaire who has so much money and so much resources. They can only do so much creatively, right? They can only have so much vision. And Elon Musk tries to fill this role of like the Uberman who has like all the right answers and all the right plans. And it's just silly because like if he took his money and he instead focused on like encouraging other people to pursue their own goals, like you would get so much more value out of that. You know what I'm saying? It's very unfortunate.
The way that it's set up, you know, philanthropy is just, from what I understand, a means of like money, like hoarding money because they don't have to like have it taxed. I guess I think that's how that works. I don't know shit about anything.
Right, and
How the money works. I
they
think
have
it's
to
just,
they have to kind of play this game where they're seeming like, you know, they're doing what they can to enable society, And I don't want to be so like hard on them here. Like I think some of them do have potentially good ideas. I mean, Amazon is wonderful. I love Amazon. Thank you, Jeff Bezos, for making Amazon. That's cool. It's a good system you made. But at the same time, you reach this upper limit where you have so much wealth and you've done so much for whatever system you've created that you just reach a dead end basically, or some kind of a diminishing returns of your own capability.
Because it's built almost like a pyramid, where even if you're at like the very tip of the pyramid, the levels below you are still like, they can still affect your life pretty seriously if they're not, you can't make them happy with like what they're being given. You know what I mean? So like you accumulate that much like stuff from people under you. You're not going to stay a good person. Like, stuff's going to with the way things are set up now.
Yeah, we kind of with Night Sky before we were talking about this before, how the stock market, when you get too deep into it, if you maintain this constant selfish interest and you're trying to analyze everything through that lens, it can kind of corrupt your being in a way.
Yeah. And I think we see this beyond just with like money. Like that's like I just love science. I love intelligence, critical thinking, all of the stuff that I've been just like cheering you guys on about and just enjoying so much. But I guess what I wanted to like caution against was when that doesn't have like a filter on it, when it doesn't have like a purpose to it, that can take you in all kinds of places. I don't know. It's like just because we can do something, we're gonna do it. I feel like that's how humans have been using their cleverness so far. They're like, okay, but why are we doing this?
Yeah, it's like that. That's
They're just like, do it though.
that's the pathology of the entrepreneur, right? We've had for so long, like you innovate something, you bring it to the market, blah blah blah, and that's how progress occurs in society. We got the iPhone this way, blah blah blah. We all know the story, but the folly or the fallacy of this is assuming that not only does everyone have to like bring this incredible original idea in order to like get recognition for themselves, but also that like we can just like continuously come up with these amazing, innovative, scientific, technological ideas at all times, and it's just constantly going to be piling up until we reach a singularity. And I think we kind of made a fallacy coming up with the singularity theory, and that was assuming that just because there's more people, just because technology is growing ever faster, that it's just going to keep going, same trajectory. And that's not how reality works, really. And
what ends up happening, I don't care how shiny or how like amazing it looks on the exterior, are the same freaking themes playing out in like different records that we did not correct way like back in the dark ages. But yeah, sometimes people just have to really like explore like sometimes people's rock bottom comes from them having everything for so long, and they eventually run out of excuses not to fix what their original problem was. Because like, oh, it's about this scarcity, or it's about like this obstacle or whatever.
And isn't it
the point of being so well off that we have no one to blame but ourselves for our unhappiness? I hope it's not too late for us to actually do something about it at that point.
Isn't it kind of interesting how you have at the very bottom of the economic hierarchy of society, and at the very top of the economic hierarchy of society, you have the most drug use, right? Like there's people who are just trying to basically cope with reality, and that leads them to drug use. And there's people who are like, basically standing on top of the world, and they want more and more and more. So that leads them to drug use, right? It's very ironic. I don't.
It's they're hungry for something that they didn't Like,
It's like what you were saying before with the animals. When they get bored, they start doing weird shit.
well, yeah, because they're no longer like they're not satisfied with where they are, and they don't know how to work together to like they don't have language in the same way that we do, I guess. So like their evolution is entering the stage at which we are kind of having to like lead, I guess. So you'll kind of see them starting to like play out the early signs of like the patterns that we've been suffering from until they figure out like, okay, it's not just about me. Now we have to like do stuff together.
I was talking about something like this similarly the other day. Was that, I have a few cats. Okay, let's say I have a few. All right.
You have 4 cats.
What?
You have 4 cats.
That's true. I do have 4 cats.
Okay.
So, getting to know all these cats, you really get a sense for their personality, right? It's weird, but like every one of my cats has a very distinct personality. I've probably had a total of like 7 cats throughout my life, and I've gotten to know all of them at a very a pretty deep level. Possibly as deep as humans go in a way. We're not talking about anything particular, about economic systems or anything, but you get a sense for like the soul of the animal, the soul of the cat or the dog or whatever. And the particular thing I was observing about this was that I don't know if this is something that is universal to animals as much as we would. Like, I definitely think each animal has a unique personality, right? But it kind of feels to me like cats and dogs in particular, and maybe a few others, maybe horses, they've kind of like, I feel like, evolved in tandem with humans to a degree, and that's enabled like a more cohesive body language communication structure, right? So,
Especially with,
what?
especially with cats, yes. There's a lot about cats that with
I
low people's
yeah,
minds, but
I am a cat person, but I would like to give the benefit of a doubt to dog people as well, that they are just as
oh, I love
complex.
dogs too. I just don't have enough experience with them.
There's something about that guy. He's saying that cat and their personalities. I swear that guy once said that animals don't have free will, in the sense that they can't really think, like they don't have an imagination.
I
Or
may
they-
have slightly exaggerated. It's more like they have a lesser degree of free will that to us is at such a. Someone's mic is blipping a lot. You may want to temporarily mute yourself because we're recording.
Is mine also
Yeah.
listening?
Yeah.
Servers.
I pretty much have to get out the door in 15 minutes, but I just still want. You started talking about cats, and I'm like, I knew you liked animals.
Yeah. Well, let me address what Knight said, because I do mostly stand by this. Like, animals, when you put them in the closed system, they will pretty much always initiate the same sequence of behavior, right? The Temple Grandin has some interesting simulations on this, and you can basically, with 99.99% accuracy, predict exactly what the animal is going to do, given certain sets of stimuli, right? I don't think they've quite diversified their ability to like make sense of complex data to the degree that humans have, and because they haven't done that, they don't have the capability to exhibit the same degree of free will, just because they're working with like less data processing, right? So,
If you think free will is just the
it's a
motivation
spectrum.
to
It's a
decide
spectrum,
to-
right?
Yeah, they will do that to the extent that they need to be the best cat.
Yes.
Whereas humans have a different goal, I guess, and purpose as a species, like a different way of functioning. So like you can only really go so far with the comparisons. You have to kind of really like get on the level of the goldfish, get on the level of the cat, and try to imagine like what it's like to be them and feel like them with all of their extensions of the senses or lack of senses.
Yes, yes, and
It's like empathy to a totally new level.
it's
I
true.
highly recommend.
You have to consider, all the different ways that an animal would perceive the world, not just in terms of its sense, but in terms of like its inner dialogue in a way, right? We all have kind of a story we tell ourselves about reality, and I think an animal even has to do this to a degree, though not to the same degree of complexity. I think it's more of a matter of locate thing that is required, uh, go through the process, the means of acquiring thing, achieve satisfaction, you know, fin, end of story, pretty much, restart again. But humans, we go through such a complex strata by which we, like, choose how we're going to survive, right? There's so many different ways a human can survive, right? You can put a human in anywhere on Earth, and they will basically find some way to survive, with maybe the exception for Antarctica. I don't know how physically inhabitable that really is for a human.
You know what humans kind of gave up in exchange for that ability to process the past and the future and stuff is we can't just exist and be fulfilled by the present unless we really like put our focus into that. I guess our technology gets, the more I guess the more of a rare like commodity our attention like becomes. And it's amazing, like everyone will tell you, oh yeah, I can meditate. Really, like you can sit still today for an hour without any of your devices on, with your eyes closed, no like stimulation whatsoever, and then come back to me to tell me that you did that for like every day for a week and that you were fine and that like you want to keep doing it again. Like no. It's very rare to come across someone who can just like pick up a habit like that, because it's almost uncomfortable to just like exist in your form without something to like do or judge or like take in. And that's where animals kind of like, at least with cats, they're like better than us. They're so like,
Yeah, no,
they're so
absolutely. Like,
aware. Like, and they if there's even a giraffe in the room that like ruffles their back butts like the wrong way, they're gonna like move away from it.
that's
They want you to pet them 1 second, pet their own spot 2 3 times. They're done with you and they go do whatever they want somewhere else. Like dogs kind of have that thing where like they will override their best interests to impress you. So I don't know if they're the best friends to have around, because they kind of teach you that it's okay to like strong arm your loved ones into like doing stuff for you, and they'll just like suppress their needs to make you happy. Cats are great for teaching you how to just like really give and take in a relationship. And it's amazing when you feel like unconditional love from an animal like a cat for the first time, and not just like as a obligation affection kind of thing, or like them just wanting something from you. It's really awesome. Like you
Yeah.
learn how to finally be when you really engage with them.
And when I say like free will, I don't assert free will as like a base positive, right? Like the entire advantage of being an animal, from the perspective of the animal, is they are very specialized in what they do, right? You have a giraffe that's born, they can walk immediately, right? A human is born, they can't walk for several months. They have to crawl, they have to be taught to walk, they have to figure all that out. It's a complicated process. And so the advantage of the animal is they can develop very quickly, because their free will scope is down a specific like linear pathway by which they can just like streamline their development and very quickly get to like the peak state of the animal maturity, right? Not to say they necessarily physically grow faster, but they will, they sometimes do. I mean, it takes a human of 18 years to become an adult. That doesn't, most animals would be dead by that time, right?
Yeah. That's true.
But that's the advantage of the animal, is because they know what they have to do. They are working with a limited set of circumstances. Like, if you took a human intelligence and you put it in an animal, you'd be screwed, right? Because it would be so much to make sense of in such a short amount of time, because your brain is so plastic that you're always like assimilating new data, making sense of everything. An animal, like, I don't want to say their brains are like less plastic. I'm just, saying in the more like fundamental sense, like they're less open to adaptation as a human who is able to be put into any environment and find a way to survive, which is why we became so successful, is because we can survive in so many different ways. So our scope of free will is wider, which means that
Yeah.
we have more spectrum of ways to go about adapting to our environment.
Totally. Um, that's kind of like the cat just the natural progression of its um, through the natural progression of like its life, I guess. But like I've tamed older animals that were like a lost cause. Like I'm a person who goes over to like a friend's house and it's like, oh, I have this bird or something that, like, hates everybody, has hated them forever. I'm just like, well, I'm gonna ask it why. Like,
Oh yeah, like Jackson Galaxy.
what is it not liking about what you're doing, or like where it is that's making it like show this side of itself to you? Like, once you figured out that it's not sick, it's not mentally ill, then it's kind of your job, like, to figure out what it is. And people don't want, they get the bird for them. They get the bird to serve them. They don't want to actually, like, give in that relationship too much, aside from the basic needs. And how would you feel if you were raised by a parent who only cared about your basic needs? You'd be kind of pissed at them and bored, and like you would lash out at them and be like, yo, I'm not complete here, and I have nowhere else to go.
That was something I was trying to kind of get into with cats, and dogs too, I suppose. Is that in their continual development alongside humans, I think they kind of, in having this space to not just think about survival all the time and actually be fed at a regular basis, they are given this room in their mental development and, in a way, their social development with you, to develop their own personality, right? Like, if you took a human being and all they could think about all day was survival, just getting food, not getting mauled by a tiger, and that was all they did all day forever, as long as they lived, at least, they wouldn't really have the space to, like, self-actualize a personality.
Exactly. They would not have the space or the patience or the ability to overcome their, like, amygdala, just wanting to, like, find answer for everything, react to everything. It definitely takes, like, you have to come from, like, a place of, like, groundedness and love, and really to, like, understand another person and go possibly emotionally or mentally wherever you need to go in order to make that happen. It takes a lot of resilience and, like, like, patience and just being present. And
Yeah, like you
can suck at that. It just, like, as if not even just like a generation, just, I feel like, I don't know if we were ever good at that. I don't think there were good old days. We have to make the day. It's time to make some days.
I mean, I don't want to say they're totally wrong, right? I don't want to dismiss them off as delusional, but at the same time, obviously they don't appreciate the full extent to which we've developed our own, unique outlook and technology. Obviously they don't, like, fully engage with that, right? But at the same time, I think there is a genuine place that this comes from. I think it comes from, one theory I have is, it's fairly anti-capitalist, so brace yourself. When they were, entering the workforce, right? They had a very defined purpose, and they had a very distinct sense of meaning, right? You would pick a profession, whatever it is, woodworker, something fairly tangible, right? and you would have this kind of engagement with like the process by which you contribute real value to society, and you're interacting with all these people who share a passion with you, whatever it is. And by engaging with this communal process, I think we kind of had a period there where there was enough comfort via technology, where we could say, I can kind of chill, I can be with people and not worry about dying of pneumonia, and also we were still engaging at the level of like tangible reality. We were kind of touching grass collectively, but we were working on all these projects, and the things we did, we felt there was a real meaning to them, even though it's cool we don't have to do as many things today. At the same time, it's kind of and this is a thing David Graeber talks about in his book Bullshit Jobs a lot. I should say that slightly differently for the recording. BS Jobs a lot. And that is that...
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
What's up?
You're gonna have to do a lot of editing after this one, man, because like, when I'm casual, I like swear like a sailor, and it's constant, and so
It's
Are you trying to keep it PG?
just like so it doesn't get picked up by YouTube deciding to like shadow ban it as it does.
I see. Can I just say one thing? Is my mic any better or any worse? Because I actually did try and change it up a little.
I think your mic has always sounded good. I think there's just like some like offhand things occurring with it, like it's getting bumped or something. I don't know. Like occasionally.
That's weird because my room's pretty quiet. There's nothing interfering. It might be. I don't know. Just let me know.
You're fine for
I'm
now.
gonna do something unexpected and call out of work because I just was hit with the realization that it's probably not a good idea to be around people and like hot stuff and equipment while I'm like feeling like this. So I'm gonna get that done and I'll be right back. See if that's no
Okay.
problem.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll be here.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, mate?
And now we're in the ocean.
Oh yeah. We're whaling on the moon and such. How's your day been? How's your mic living? Is your mic alive? I don't hear stuff.
Alive.
Oh, hello?
Oh, sorry. Can't really need to remember.
Okay, you're coming through now. You have a very strange mic phenomena.
Are you talking about me or Jojo?
I think you're the only person talking here other than me.
Hey guy, did you mute Jojo? Cause his
did
mic.
I may. Yeah, I did.
Oh, why? Is it just cause?
I unmuted him now. He had some weird mic stuff going on. I didn't want the recording. There's nothing
Yeah,
against
sorry.
Oh, he still does.
Yeah, let me fix that then.
Yeah, his mic is so loud, but it's so like muffled, and it's like ambience music.
Is this better?
No.
No? Okay, let me just...
I will edit out any like lapses in conversation.
Hey,
So
I have a better idea.
what?
You should make like a server for like certain people who want to do these like recordings with you, these conversations.
Yeah.
So-
In the future, like when we're doing something like this, I will set it up so there's a certain space, and it'll be obvious before someone joins that we're recording, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
You seem
A
fine.
little bit.
Okay. There's actually a thing in Discord, so you can make an actual like conversation room where people can join in but not talk, unless you give them the right to talk.
I don't know if he should make another server completely, or if he should make like a group chat.
No, that was actually my idea. Is I should make another server, and I'll just have an open invite, like anyone who wants to engage in the chats, they can just join the server.
Are these conversation recordings, are they going to be about anything people want to talk about, or is there going to be like some?
No. It's just it's open ended.
Cool.
You can talk about femboys all you want.
Listen, that was. You're not keeping that in, are you? Anything about that?
Of course we are.
I mean, you can, but don't expect my reputation to be in shape.
Yeah, I think that was the game.
If you're putting this online, then I don't want my character in these chronicles to be known as old.
Okay. There's going to be a very, very simple requirement that everyone is going to have to follow before I upload the video.
Do I know this requirement?
You do.
Do I? What is it? Remind me.
I want you to buy an apple.
What? You were talking about this earlier.
Yes, I want you to get a camera, and I want you to record the entire length of yourself eating the apple on camera.
What do you want? But then
Apple fetish.
Who do I need to show this video to?
It's gonna be published on the podcast channel, and people will be able to see it, and they will know who you are.
I don't know if I'm comfortable, to be honest, because I've not shared a lot of personal information about me on this server. I don't know if just literally recording myself. I don't. Not to like.
Here's the thing. Okay.
Okay.
I understand the concerns about privacy, right? But this is a podcast,
Yes.
and in a podcast, I want people to be able to. Well, first of all, I want people who will actually, commit to like having good conversation, and this is a basic way to gateway that. And another thing is, if someone does this, unironically, what I posted on Twitter is what I believe, and that's that you can learn something about someone from doing this.
It's not about me not particularly wanting to do it. It's just, what do you mean? Will people involved in the podcast, or is this going to be like a public thing? Like, is it going to be like on video online?
Just the Apple. Like the podcast is not going to be video.
So who's? If I ever show myself IRL, very much me, are you going to post this online, or do I only need to show myself to the people who I'm talking with, i.e. you and everyone else involved in the podcast?
Good question.
That could be a subject for debate. Personally, I do want it to be. I want it to be visible to anyone who's viewing the podcast. I think it's a little bit of a litmus test, right?
Why exactly do you want this? Because you said it's because I want people to be committed to good conversation. I don't think that has a lot to do with doing videos like that.
Just consider, all these excuses you're making. If you're really not willing to record yourself eating an apple, how committed are you to the podcast? How committed are you to a good conversation?
It's very simple.
No.
I have very hateful opinions, and I don't want to share my face with those opinions.
I would be very committed. I would get online and I would have conversation. I would be open-minded. That's what I meant by committed.
I joined the podcast, but I'm
myself
not recording it.
just because I don't. That has nothing. I mean, maybe it is excuses, but I just feel that
It's mostly excuses, and I have dealt with people throughout my entire life who make constant excuses, and it makes it impossible to get.
You're saying I have to do this if I ever want to be involved.
Real.
If you want to be significant, like, okay, I can make like a basic like entry level thing. Like people can just like be in the chat, right, and they can make a few comments. They can ask some questions, right? It doesn't have to be anything complicated. At that level, no, you don't have to. You don't have to do the Apple initiation. Okay, I'll grant you some leeway there. However, if you want,
I'm kind of infamous right now, so you have to finish what you were saying.
Darian, you're not infamous.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to be engaged in like a constant two-way discussion, I feel like you should have to put yourself out there just a little bit. This is,
when you say podcast, you don't mean like
How do you
a,
so?
when you mean like talking conversation.
let me
you mean,
hold up. Let me grab a video, okay? Just 1 second.
yeah. This feels a little like I'm not getting enough information on what exactly this is.
Real.
The people at my work love me so much, and they were so chill, and I'm just grateful for life right now. And
I do agree with Hack Guy there though. It's like you could never get any kind of you can never if you ever want to take off and get any kind of publicity, you have to be willing to put yourself out.
Okay, so this is a public thing. So if I do this, I am now a public figure on the internet. So this is what Hack Guy is
wanting to be part of his video.
Look.
Anyone.
The
Part
concept.
of his video.
The concept is anyone can be a part of it, okay? But I don't want people just coming in, with like zero level of commitment and just, being like, let's just talk about like some random bullshit.
I get it. People need to be committed. I know, and I am.
Yeah,
but
that
that
just
seems
channel
really extreme to do. Like I have to, because I've never.
Okay,
If
let me give some context to this video. So in the movie Django Unchained or Django, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact pronunciation.
Never saw it anyway.
There is a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio has to, in a very egregious way, say the N-word to black people, and it's something he has to do to fulfill the role of the movie as the villain, right? So he struggles with this for a long time, and there was kind of a whole narrative to this, like he was trying to kind of like be like, I don't want to do this, blah blah blah. It's hard. I'm sorry, I'm doing this. And Samuel L. Jackson, being the real G he is, he says, this is just like, this is how life is for us. We have to deal with racism all the time. To us, this is nothing new, right? And so what he does in this interview, this isn't specifically about that, but the interview, he kind of tries to bait the interviewer into like committing himself to the conversation of this dialogue that he had to have with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's like he tries to kind of like pull the interviewer out of his passivity, right? Because you can come on, be the interviewer, and be like, yeah, we have questions about these things and so on and so forth, but from Samuel L. Jackson's perspective, it feels like a subtle aside, like just a little bit manipulative to like have these conversations and not have like your own personal like stake, like your own emotional commitment to the topic, right? So just watch the video right now if you haven't watched it yet. And
You want me to watch? It's 40 seconds. I'll watch it, but before I do, so I think I get the idea. You say that you don't want people who like, if they want answers, if they want conversation with you and other people.
If you want to have a real conversation about issues that are important to people, you need to be willing to emotionally extend yourself to the point of like, you yourself can like falter in a way. It's like through showing yourself just in this very minimal way, right?
Is there any other way I could show myself other than that specifically?
No, you have to eat an apple.
On camera, nothing
On
else.
camera. Yep,
Not even photos. Not even saying my life story.
Like, this is exactly would like make me sit in chat by myself doing my makeup and going like, "What are you guys doing?"
Exactly. That's you're
I
the.
heard you. I'm the one opening up here. I'm the one looking like cool here, and like you guys just want to stay in your little. I wasn't making fun of you, but it's just like, why do you need to feel so safe in like your like intellect? It's like structure you built.
Yeah, I will literally.
Sure of it and sure of your ability to handle any topics that are actually here. You know what I mean? Like we screw ourselves over in like all these different ways, whether it's intellectually, spiritually. It keeps us from actually like being like going through uncomfortable stuff like in the present. And I want to challenge that more, especially.
I mean, like, what do you even have to lose? We all fuck up and do stupid, embarrassing shit. So it's like pretty
Like,
being
oh
human.
my god, you don't have to search that far to see like how much of a goofus I've been on the internet.
Because I certainly have. I can say it right now.
I haven't done anything illegal, so like, judge me however you will. It doesn't make the good things I do.
Yeah, like small prerequisite I would add is, you know, if you are running from the FBI, do not do this. Okay, so if
Yeah, if you're in legal
Yeah.
trouble.
Don't have like a record that would like make your friends look bad or something.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say,
I mean-
I think it's a big deal. I don't.
Yeah, I'm not, but I can say right now my uncle fucking John has kicked his ass once already because he tried to abuse me growing up, and he got his ass thrown in jail. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry
I
about
was.
that.
I was gonna
that's
say.
fine because he got his ass kicked by me and then got thrown in jail for drinking. So he got what he deserved.
Yeah, that's sometimes how things have to play out, unfortunately.
But I've told everybody the story that I know, so it's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I've always, like, I've gotten in these situations of even my own parents, and I haven't, like, hit people, but I've, like, defended myself and counter, like, blocked, because I took Taekwondo, so. Hold on.
But yeah,
The-
so you have to like verbally fight people or like just.
I mean, I've gotten in arguments, so. If I, like, fucking Uncle John actually came out and tried to hit me, so like, don't fucking hit me, bitch, and I blocked.
Yeah, like imagine this. Imagine this. Like, what if there was like some kind of technology that you could just like apply to yourself, and it was like an anti-visual field technology, right? And, like, no cameras can pick you up. People can't even see you, and people could just wear this thing and go anywhere. Like, what kind of effect do you think that would have on society?
Wait, you mean like a cloaking device?
Well, cloaking device, to the sense that it disguises your identity fully to both cameras and like the human eye as well.
Okay, there's actually like a concept for this.
I would
So,
find
yeah.
people. I would find people who I see a lot of potential in to do great things for the world, but there's something that they either lose to someone or they're waiting for some kind of miracle to change their mind and maybe get their goals.
I'm not sure if it was like
That things
proved
are-
fake or not,
Yeah.
but like scientists took a ton of like little mirrors, micro mirrors, like, and covered them in a piece of fabric, and then they put it
Yeah.
over top of them. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's just not the point of the question.
The hypothetical here, though, is to demonstrate, like, you know, if someone could do that, you know, they might do some weird things that might be kind of unpredictable. You know, even if they were
Yeah.
kind of like law-abiding, like they didn't want to go to jail and all that, they might act
They
in
would
such a way
do
that
things, yeah,
they
because of the anonymity.
like at a social level, they would become a different beast. You know, it's a very psychological phenomena that anonymity
Yeah.
has on someone.
This is exactly.
Like, I guess just meddle with people's lives in a way that like brings them to some kind of realization, so that they're being of use to others, or they're, I don't know. I just want to like make people want to do the things that they're good at. Really.
Yeah, if I was anonymous like that, I'm just gonna say it right now. I would get revenge legitimately on anybody who's ever wronged me. So
Right. So
good thing they don't have that.
the idea is basically to just offer like a level of gatekeeping that is so minimal that anyone can do it, and like at the same time, as I said in Twitter, I think there's a certain component to like the layer of like when you start eating an apple, just like think about like all the things your brain is doing or all the things your brain isn't doing, right? It's not like trying to guard itself. It's not like trying to pretend it's something it's not. It's just you eating an apple. It's so like primal in a sense that it kind of like opens up your subconscious to be more authentic. And that sounds weird. But
you think
Well, I
I'm
don't
being
buy an apple to do
emotionally
this.
distant?
wait, too many
From
people
not-
talking at once. What?
Okay.
Sorry.
Night?
No, finish what you were saying, this guy. I'll let you finish.
Okay. It's just I'm trying to figure it out because I don't want to be emotionally distant like you might think because I don't want to record myself eating an apple for everyone. It's because it's not because I don't want to be involved or I don't want to be committed. It's such a weird request, and I've been on the internet for a long time. I know that sharing personal information can be bad. Like, what if something bad happens? Your real life is more like if you. I know I would regret it if I did that without thinking about it too much.
Wait, are you like literally like not wanting to eat like an apple or like what is this
No,
like
I don't want to combine. Like when I walk away from the internet, I don't want it to be hanging over me. I don't want the pressure. I don't want to be vulnerable in that
Well,
sense.
To me,
Don't be part of the podcast then.
yeah,
That's it. Like,
But what if I get hurt? What if like you have to think about
okay,
this.
you have the risk of regretting it and maybe having people come after you publicly. Hack Guy has the risk of getting trolls or inflammatory people in his podcast, so he's just putting a litmus test and saying, okay, I'm going to exclude some people who maybe would be good to have a conversation with, but overall I'm going to increase the likelihood that people are actually committed and in like good faith if they're willing
Yeah,
to put their faith.
people doing
I
a
know
troll,
what-
just play a
that guy's-
soundboard back in response.
well,
That guy's
also
a you-
at another level, like I think like people who are really devoted to their ideals will sometimes go to great extremes to bring about those ends, and in that sense, like this is the anarchist sentiment in this way is like you stake yourself against authority, and it's a very it's like self-sacrifice, and it's not like this is some extreme thing, right? It's just like it's a similar sentiment, it's a similar line of thought, whereby if you're willing to commit to an idea so much that you want to go on a podcast, you want to make it public, you care about these ideas, you should be staking yourself, because the ideas don't exist in a vacuum. The ideas themselves hold weight, and your communications can change society for the better or for the worse. So hold that accountability.
Yeah, that's
I
one
have to
thing
be on
that
the screen a
I've
moment.
actually wanted to be a YouTuber since like forever, but I guess what stopped me after like doing, I guess like other types of work and being like mentally ill and stuff like that. I guess I'm even more fearful of, I don't know, putting an idea out there that like young people take the wrong way, or that like I could just be like talking like this or whatever and actually believe what I'm saying, but then like it's the thing that like somebody really like zeroes in big, like they feel like
I've never wanted to be a YouTuber in particular, but I've wanted to do things like mechanics and biology my entire life, and I could start a YouTube channel for that. But the biggest thing I'm facing is like I don't like want to put myself out there and really what I'm doing. I'll put myself out there anonymously, like animations and video games and stuff. But if I truly actually put myself out there,
Well,
I know
Darren,
I'm going to be
Darren.
facing prejudice. Yeah.
The thing is, the podcast is not games, right? The podcast is
Yeah,
specifically
it's talking about topics.
it's about
The important
potentially real world issues. And
Yeah.
I don't want to claim I'm like a huge YouTuber or anything. I'm just kind of moderate right now. I don't have a ton
No,
of
I know.
content,
I know what you do, so
but
you're fine.
I just enabling the platform to be open to other people, and saying anyone from my other channel can come over and view it, and if you like it, if you like talking to me, you can be a part of it, and opening that up to people. I think that this goes back into what I was saying about billionaires before, is they don't leverage their own capability to enable others. And we can get such a better creative process by doing that. But if you just do it to everyone, and it's just baseline democratic anarchy, where anyone can come in and say anything, and they're non-committal,
it's not gonna be good.
You get a lot of bad actors, and you get a lot of people who don't take themselves seriously, and they don't have that, as I said, the anarchist sentiment of potentially self-sacrifice, because that is ultimately what the goal is to have enough momentum as a people to overcome whatever adversity prevents us from advancing as a society.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because these things are not... we worry a lot about censorship and anonymity. Like, why do you have to worry about that, right? Because there's a government that is monitoring everything you do and everywhere you go.
That.
And why is that a problem? Because we don't have the necessary capability to put ourselves forward and speak up against it. Because, as individuals, we mean nothing, but as a collective, we can all put forward our own...
As a group, then we can,
then...
Be wary around the idea of, like, having to stand up and, like, fight against...
No, I don't mean anything physical.
You don't wanna...
Not
I mean,
physical.
like, no, of course not physically, that's dumb. Don't... I hope y'all are...
No, don't start a fucking war with people. Don't ever do that.
It's just a philosophical sentiment, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, like, okay, the best way to, I don't know, combat, or just deal with people who are really set in ways is you try to adopt the way that they think, and then see if you can, like, bring your own ideas into, like, the framework you feel the most safe in, but, like, it makes them think in a very different way. It relates to you differently in their language. That's what a good, like, teacher does, I think.
Yeah, there's a good video on YouTube with a fair amount of views that is, like, of this Asian chick. She says she went through, like, a period of her life where she was watching Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. Maybe some of you have even seen this. It's pretty popular. Like, maybe 2 million views or so. She's like, I went through a Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro phase, and I'm glad I did. And at the end of the video, she explains, like, I don't agree with any of these people, but at the same time, their thought process brought me through...
Yeah, it's interesting.
That guy.
Sorry.
Kinda-
Can I finish the thought? Someone.
Oh, that's all right.
By listening to other people who might have their own thought process, which is developed, even if the thought process is wrong, when you go through that process of, like, going through their thoughts and thinking with them as they, try to present, you can learn whatever fallacies they're making if you disagree with them. And from that basis, that enables you to have the strongest position to actually disagree with them and, change people's minds in a real way. Because you're not just engaging with them on the level of opposition. You're engaging with them.
You're actually understanding what
You're
doing.
You're putting yourself at their level in order to raise them up to whatever ideal you are prescribing.
So, Hat Guy, earlier, a moment ago, you were saying that the main reason that we want anonymity is because of government, basically just the government. I feel like that kind of I think the bigger reason people usually worry about that is for societal reactions. Like, they don't want to be excluded or excommunicated from their spaces, or, like, have people come after their job so that they get fired. And I think we see that right now more than we ever had, So, I mean, if you express certain sets of views,
well,
you basically your career ends.
The authoritarian tendency goes both ways. I have a theory about this. It's like, in the political compass, there's a component of Darwinism, and there's a component of crabs in a barrel. and both of these things are inverse to each other. The crabs in a barrel basically function to prevent people from getting to such a level that they themselves cannot sympathize with others or engage with them at their own level. So, they're kind of pulling them down. That can seem malicious, but it's also a social survival mechanism whereby you prevent someone from becoming too powerful. You get a populist figure who overtakes society. There have been some bad people who did this. It's a social function to prevent things like that. On the other hand, you have Darwinism, which is trying to say, we have established a certain level of intellectual integrity, and we no longer wish to engage with the very foolish and silly thoughts which have been regarded to the trash, basically. And I'm sure you could come up with any number of ideas which would fall into this category. Authoritarianism would work through, would be, in the government sense, would be the crabs in a barrel trying to prevent the populist figure from, implementing something fascistic. The Darwin feature is the opposite, which is democratic gatekeeping of ideas, which is where we realize we need to overcome as a society certain things that are no longer worth discussing at all. So there's an Overton window dynamic here, right? Where authoritarianism is not merely and this is what you were talking about, right? With cancel culture and such. It's not merely.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
It's not merely the domain of authoritarian government figures to maintain this hegemonic control over our thoughts and feelings and etc.
Exactly.
It's also a function of the people, which they're trying to capitalize on. Ironic pun, I know, but capitalize on in order to elicit their own social political gain, and establish a new operating system for culture. And there is a good idea to this, actually. I want to say most ideas.
I mean, yeah, I appreciate the thought process behind it. It's not it's when you really boil it down, I guess it's cool because it works for certain groups of people.
Right. It's kind of we're trying to step into the shoes here of something greater than ourselves, and in doing that, we're having kind of a sophomorish phase right now where we're just kind of integrating what can be seen as a very simple rational conclusion, something moralistic in a way, which is why there's this conservative backlash, you're not being logical enough, blah blah blah. But we try to establish with the baseline of previous history, we like to emphasize empathy, which is a good principle.
Yes.
It can be taken to extremes at the same time. Empathy can be delusional in a way.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay, I mean, do you really think that the average person who's censorious and calling for cancel culture is doing so because the idea they're wanting to censor is just so implausible, and it's basically flat Earth neo-Nazism?
No.
I mean, in my
bandwagon.
It seems like the average person who advocates for censorship, whether it's a right-wing theocrat wanting to ban communist speech, or left-wing people wanting to ban just moderate conservative positions that Jordan Peterson had 3 years ago.
Right.
It seems like it's just people who really hate disagreement, in that they just even moderate, very plausible disagreement.
And it's you should always agree to disagree with somebody, because you don't agree with somebody, it doesn't mean you need to be neck to neck with them or remove them from, or because blocking, canceling these people, you think they're just gonna vanish? No, they're still gonna be around, just in different places.
No,
so it's just
I'm an unironic free speech absolutist. I think that whatever damage is done by people who are crude and hateful is totally offset by the amount of good you can do by refusing to lump in all the good people who are doing amazing things, like Edward Snowden and all these people who are whistleblowers and really trying to take action for a more equitable society. I think if you just like let those people who are bad actors and doing horrible things like dictate the means.
Oh yeah, if you let them affect, yeah, okay.
If you let them dictate the means by which we're having our discussions, they are winning. Okay, that's the
Yeah,
whole
just
point.
letting them get their way. So don't do that.
And like you can like at a very fundamental level cut people off from discussions, not even for their ideas, but for the attitude by which they engage with them. Right?
Exactly.
And that's
you
that's
pretty,
why
you
I
pretty
take
much got me down to a T. So
yeah. No, I knew you would appreciate that in particular, Terry, and you
so
experienced the brunt of it.
thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it because it's just like I've grown up around small business owners my entire life, so it's like I appreciate being able to express like what I've learned along the way. And it's just like for some like no matter what, for some reason or another, somebody always disagrees with me, and I'm like, well, like I've learned this, and I've been allowed to express myself my entire life, so I don't understand what I'm doing that offends and puts people off. And it's just, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's
Finish what you were saying.
It's a hard process, and I understand your difficulty with it because the crabs in a barrel function can become pathological in that people will do this out of response. They're just being reactive, right? They're not necessarily.
Yeah, they're not thinking about what they're doing or how they're responding, or they're like. In the ways it's like they're all thinking about themselves.
Which is what a pathology is, right? You're just acting based off of like some kind of underlying feeling. You're not necessarily going through the process of like analyzing your every action, and why do I want to do this? Why do I want to cancel this person? Blah blah blah. Yeah. It's just like it's very primal, right? A pathology is something that is ingrained in your subconscious to some degree. And, I think what some of you are trying to kind of, like, put your finger on the pulses of here is the moralization of things that are not necessarily, like, holistically good for society.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, my overall stance, I'll just lay it out, is conservatives have a point, okay? They can make arguments, and sometimes they're fair, sometimes they're misleading. But at the same time, I feel like they don't come from the right place, Like, they can come from a point of intellectual honesty, but the empathic connection, I think, is missing. And then liberals, left-leaning people, they may have the opposite. They have the fundamental empathy, which is necessary to engage with the fruitful human society, but they are doing it to an extent that is not necessarily... It doesn't always, like, concentrate itself on something that's productive to making people's lives better in a meaningful way, and then that...
I've noticed this too.
Like just like inclusion at all costs. It's like, no, there's sometimes differences in like skill or like natural ability or whatever.
And it's like nobody's seeing the entire picture.
They get to kind of float with it, like be recognized for like their efforts and stuff.
And this is the entire reason I like neglected to get into politics until so late, and it was just because it's like these liberals are like, oh, no animal experimentation, no this, that, and then all the conservatives are like, somebody for office and blah blah blah, and it's just like none of you guys are seeing the entire picture here.
Yeah, if I can just talk about the fallen one for a moment, you know who he
Go
is
ahead.
if you spent some time on my server. The people in his server are so hell-bent on like driving these points home that they have created like a very toxic landscape by which like any further discussion of the ideas becomes impossible. And I recently had to give someone like a particularly negative role recently in the server because they would constantly reroute their logic in a very circuitous way that was basically just meant to throw people off. And I know that this is intentional, right? They're either stupid or they're trolling. Okay, it's that simple, right? You reach a point where you can recognize this, and that is like the norm in this particular server, which I try to avoid like the plague because I don't believe that the future is like so deterministic to a certain, like, very specific political philosophy we've outlined already. I think it has to be something that takes everyone's feelings into account and is holistic. Right? Because if you have half the population believing one thing, half the population believing another thing, I think there's something to both, right? You can't just say both sides are, like, entirely delusional or entirely right. Like, that's silly. Like, you can't, I don't think you can even get delusion at that scale, right? Where it's in opposition to each other.
Because people don't believe these things if neither side has substance.
Like, there's a basis for both sides. I don't want to say both sides are right, you know. There is a correct opinion, but there's also a correct outlook at the same time. And something I often see in, like, conservative arguments, like, especially about, like, abortion, is, you know, kind of what drove N4 out of the server was, I say that the conservative opinion on abortion is not a political opinion. It's a philosophical one. They believe that people should be responsible with what they're doing with, you know, their reproductive functions, that they should not be doing these things in an irresponsible way. But that doesn't mean you can tell people how to live their fucking lives. That's fascism. That's literally what fascism is.
They would also say that they think that the fetus has personhood, and so that complicates that, right?
And that's exactly what I believe about abortion too. And I've talked to my sister about that. But it was like, it said it's like these, well, I mean, it's these people that are like, it's their decision what they want to do. So it's like, and she was like, I said, what about people like get raped? I said, if you get, I said, I believe that if you get raped and like you don't have any other choice, yeah, you should be allowed to abort the baby because you didn't choose to get it. But it's like if you choose to have sex and want to have a child, well, it's your decision.
Right.
So it's like it's very circumstantial. I don't believe there's no abortion or yes abortion. I believe it's like it's entirely based on context.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of these things are, and that's what I would say to the areas that are seemingly opposing to this, like, complement each other.
I'm sorry, I haven't understood a word you said. Can you repeat some of that? I don't think it was coming through.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
No, not you.
Oh, okay, you understood me, but her. Sorry.
Was it
Sev.
a sound thing, or am I just too far away?
I think you were just a little too far away. Can you repeat it?
Oh.
Hey, good morning, Lily.
Yeah, this is why I'm always trying to, like, see where people can, like, give a little bit when we're talking concepts. First glance, like, opposites, like emerging science and spirituality as a one, and like becoming aware of, like, what is the science into, like, studying non-physical phenomena like ESP and stuff, like, takes, like, the level of, like, open-mindedness and willingness to kind of, like, suspend your own beliefs temporarily to see how it just feels to kind of inhabit that.
Yeah,
you can do things that you know, like because you're coming from others, like things you have to read.
Even something like, even something like as seemingly apolitical as, like, ESP, I think it eventually carries its own weight because these things deal with phenomena which are universal, right? And
they'll experience it.
These questions have to be answered at some level, at some point. You know, even if it seems frivolous right now, you know, if it's something like crystal healing, whatever, I think you reach some kind of an intellectual zenith where the point of the question is not like the point that's being actually debated. The point that's being debated becomes something larger, something more philosophical when you draw it out to the logical conclusion. This is...
Yeah, that's why there are a lot of seemingly, like, harmless, like, experiments in, like, free energy devices and, like, just like, yeah, small scale experiments, but what could possibly mean huge things down the line. I guess the powers that be complete control. They don't want just, like, people making cool stuff and just, like, overflow, like, the oil industry or something.
Yeah, like, what's gonna happen with
inventions, like, you know, you can't do certain research, just like you know,
But-
literally rewriting like the way we like deal with nature and stuff, like
And
science.
Like,
and then people are like, oh, those are ethical questions, and I'm like, and I like veganism, and I'm like, I hope you realize that's all dependent on the way you think about life forms, because it's like if you like look at a jellyfish, and it's go, you can eat a jellyfish, it's not human. I'm like, yeah, but it has a nerve ring that still detects light, can synthesize, and like it can still, it's not a human, it can't think. But who's to say that it still isn't experiencing the sensory input that dictates it to be able to navigate its environment?
yeah, and there's
Yeah,
still-
it's like nociception, where they don't actually have a sense of a self to experience pain through,
Mhm.
but their bodies and I guess their being kind of reacts to negative stimuli.
So it's like it depends entirely on how you define or what you think a living being is.
yeah, and there's like
yeah, well, like even plants can feel pain.
Yeah, plants can they've proved this. You can run a scissor up to a plant on a spectrograph, and it will detect that right before and after you cut it, or during you cutting it.
uh-huh.
So plants can't.
Does it like scream and cry and like hold?
Just because it doesn't scream,
for, like, years
yeah,
afterwards?
doesn't mean it still doesn't feel the pain, and it will remember that for the next time it happens.
And
'Cause I'm pretty
Darian,
Well, until we figure out how to photosynthesize
Mhm.
that into the plant, and chicken or something.
Yeah, continue what you were saying, okay.
Clearly not one, but-
and I want to say, Darian, you know, if I would love to have you on the podcast. If you're gonna have this level of discussion, which we appreciate and is good for the podcast, is you gotta eat an apple, dude.
Yeah, I'll do that. So I'm fine. I'm not opposed to it.
Awesome, perfect.
I gotta
perfect.
buy an apple first of all. I haven't gotten any for months.
Well, I'll think about it, but I'm not sure.
Well, I hope you do, and I hope you can bring some good discussions if you do.
Yeah, not to say more excuses. I don't mean to, but it would be different if people had already seen what I looked like in the server, or that you have. But because I've never done that before, and I don't want to feel, I feel that keeping my identity more private helps me
You
mentally.
have short blonde hair that's buzzed and like blue eyes.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that's someone else then.
And who was that?
Are you talking about that one guy who's like, I don't want to say his name.
Felix?
Is that Felix? I don't know. Felix changes his name all the time.
Yeah, he's older, but he
Yeah, I
also
have like
has
a
blonde
mental
hair.
image of someone who's like white with like ruddy skin, short, buzzed like blonde.
I'll just say the name. I'll just say the name, and I might edit it out. Is it Poopy Sock?
I don't know if it's him because he has I think he has blonde hair.
It's not someone that I recognize from your circles, but I just got into flashes.
It might be him. I don't see who else it could be because
Yeah, that's the only person I can think of who really has like a profile picture that might resemble that. I don't exactly look into the eyes of every dude I see on a profile picture and like, you know, figure out what their eye color and hair color and height is. It's not something I do. If you're into that, by all means, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's what I am. I'm just a sociopath with a conscience. That's kind of how my brain works.
I actually had everyone muted because I'm just watching some YouTube because
I gotta head out today. I gotta head out for a bit. See you guys. Bye.
Yeah, you know, this is it's been a good baseline. I think we can put it to a close for now. We've had some interesting tangents, some interesting perspectives, and this would make a good starting podcast. So let's eat some apples.
I wish I knew what you guys meant when you said that.
I'm really starting to get cult vibes now. Do you know that?
Cold
Yeah, I'll
vibes?
go-
What are you
I'll-
talking
I'll
about?
buy
This is
an-
the most
I'll buy an
non-cold
apple at
server.
Walmart.
You know fine well what you're doing.
So I'll be ready for next time. Alright, see you guys. Bye.
The colds of apple.
I need to think about this hard and wise because this is going to affect my entire life.
You know, why don't you do it, and then we can have that thought process on a podcast, and you can express your
It's
feelings.
Well, you see, there's been so many times in my life where, because I'm really familiar with like situations where I'm like, should I really do this? This is really big and it's gonna affect me and it's gonna be entwined with me personally. Should I really do it? And if I don't do it, it's like, well, anything could happen. But if I do it, it seems like in past experiences,
Well, sometimes you
my
have
life
to.
goes horribly.
Sometimes you have to take up principles against non-action, and you know
Right. Say
everything you
something.
do has an impact on the world and yourself.
I don't want to. I don't want to drag it on, but does it have to be that specific? Because I would actually be way more comfortable just even just showing photos of myself or telling you about my real life. I would be actually way more comfortable with that. If it is an absolute necessity that we need to do what you said, particularly, then it's fine. You know.
It
I
is.
don't think that like a big
if
reveal
it-
is very like good. It might be too much of a shock to the system and seems just
Yeah, like this isn't meant to be something that like, you know, nails a person down as your particular like persona or you know, political figure, ideologue, whatever. It's just like that's who you are. You're eating an apple. It's chill. There's nothing political about it. It's just you and your body language.
yeah.
I'll
It's not
definitely.
that bad. There's so many things that I've come back from in life, horrible things that I've done, weird things I've been a part of, and still using people are like you just want to be yourself. Obviously, to give away like your real name, like be careful. Like, it's just your face, and you're wonderful, and just you, yeah.
And it's a fairly simple thing. I mean, like anyone can eat an apple in public and feel fine, you know. We all do this.
I
and-
don't eat apples in Publix and feel fine. I don't do
Well,
that.
maybe
Maybe
you've
more
got
like
some.
potential filters for associations.
Maybe if you're afraid to eat an apple in public, you aren't ready to like post your political opinions on the internet.
There you go.
Well,
That's
I feel comfortable doing that than I do eating apples in public. Maybe I'm maybe there's something mentally wrong with me, but it's just the way I think. It just makes me feel better. I feel like it would harm me
yeah, a lot
if
of
something
people
went in.
actually. I've
That's
noticed
the
that
only reason.
they use their online presence as like to, I guess, put forth like an idealized like version of themselves, not like who they actually are. And then you find like the rare people who are so repressed in real life. The internet is where they can be like actually use it for the first time.
That's actually how I feel. Like in real life, I'm a very blunt person. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to fit in, not in a negative way. That I want to be like everyone else. I want to be.
Yeah, you just want to get along. You don't want to like.
I know.
Or, like,
This.
be the
I've
center of
had
attention in that way.
I've had bad experiences in the past, so I just feel that it's better for me. And yeah, I'll think about it because it's like on one half I trust the server and I trust that guy, so I'm willing to try out new things that he tells me. But if this was anyone else, then I don't think I would, other than family. But yeah,
I think you should
I
do
need-
it for yourself. Only when you know that you can handle whatever fallout you're afraid of like
That's-
manifesting.
That's
and then
what I'm.
just use the support from us, like to that, like however you feel about it afterwards, you're gonna be alone.
Yeah, and it also it encourages you to be like more open with your thoughts and like less reserved, which is just good for conversation.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I think I know why you want me to record myself eating an apple and then post it to you or anyone else. It's so that I'm opening myself out. That in a way making me more vulnerable means that I can hurt anybody myself. So it's like a safety thing, not safety, but I'm trying to put it into words.
No,
I'm not-
look, listen. I kind of understand what you're saying. I think your overall position is basically just like, you know, you understand that I cannot say this fucking word. Anonymity serves a certain function which is important to our ability to communicate honestly. Yes. However, when you when you engage at a social level, which is something which is necessitated when you're using your voice, you're not necessarily just presenting your ideas. You're also presenting yourself as a person as kind of like a model for your ideas. Like this is why we obsess over like the personal lives of people who are like, just intellectuals, right? We want to think like, if they're a saint, they should act like a saint, right? If they're a sinner, they should act like a sinner, etc. So there's a certain component to that which I'd say is valid. At the same time, you don't want to like have to obsessively look over every detail of a person's life and be like, dang, you did this like slightly questionable thing. Now I don't believe anything you say. Like that's just stupid. You should be able to take people seriously, but also, question like, if this person's kind of like a right wing extremist and they want to hurt people, then I don't know if I want to really engage with those ideas, because if they're coming from a source that is not necessarily genuine or valid, it's at that point you implement the social Darwinism of the idea and extricate it from society.
Yeah, exactly. Like you decide what ideas like just will not put up with being like perpetuated, and then make like those boundaries known. And just explore the rest of the things that like make you angry.
Which, by the way, doesn't mean that, again, you don't have to, like, in a physical, structural sense, censor, everything that is wrong thought, which can become rather broad over time, if we're honing down on our ideology, like really, hammer to the grindstone and, figuring out what the right ideas are. It can become a little bit fascist because some people might not understand. I think a lot of people who are sucked into these hateful groups are kind of just confused. They don't know what they're doing with their lives. It's very unfortunate. And when you kind of ostracize them, you let it fester, right? And you're kind of taking an anti-egalitarian approach and saying that we need to, which is ironic, because obviously these people are very anti-egalitarian themselves, right? It's a weird dynamic, I know, but at the same time, like you wanna like be able to take people who are falling into these traps and like not like estrange them,
Yeah, exactly. I recommend actually like there's a lot of videos of interviews on YouTube of people who got out of gangs, cons. They came from being part of something that wasn't good, and you can kind of see patterns in people, the realizations and the experiences that people
dude.
Maybe this thing, that was like good. And then you can kind of like start seeing where people are kind of open to what those people did to it.
One of my favorite YouTubers is Adam something. He used to be a bad person, okay? Let's just say that. I'm not going to say the word. But he used to be that, and he came around, right? And he turned out to make some really good leftist content, which is like amazing that can happen. And just the fact that can happen is testament to the power of like, just not, you can tell these people to their face like the idea is horrible. I probably detest you because of this idea. However, I'm going to let you say it to me on the basis of the fact that you need to be informed that this idea is problematic. And, if you want to take it to a deeper level, you can even engage with them on their own logical basis. It's not always necessary. It's not always even good for most people to have to, like, engage with this, this very, like, violent kind of way of thinking about, politics.
Yeah, you have to be a certain kind of person, and this has to be, like, your level of expertise. Like, you are a person who helps rehabilitate gang members from these types of gangs in this area. Like,
exactly. Like,
are so important. You can't just.
Oh my god. This is so ironic. Like, we take prisoners, right? And the leftist position is we should rehabilitate them. We should help them get on their feet and, like, get psychological help so they don't do the same thing. Why aren't we doing that with people on the other side of the ideological spectrum? they need help. If they are so delusional and lost, then you need to actually address that. That's a societal problem. It's not like these things just exist in our heads, and you just have a winning idea, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, winning idea, done. No, it's like you need to pull each other up. That's the crabs in a barrel inverse function, is you pull the people from the bottom up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well,
I
that's
don't...
kind of been my path. I was at the bottom. I was a shitty person, and then pretty much alone to find my way back up. But my healing really started taking off in 2.5 years when it was like, hey, maybe I can still like asking for help, and maybe I don't deserve to be like totally alone, or I shouldn't have all the answers. Like, that sucks. Like, why are there so many of us if only one of us need to have all the answers? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. I had to have a lot of those moments where it's just like a no-brainer. Like, why am I trying to be so alone in a universe that's just filled with so many like individuals that are all interconnected? Like, how do I allow myself to fit into that?
But I have to stress that this is not the same thing as relativism. I'm in no way saying that every person has a valid opinion. Not at all. I'm saying that everyone is in some kind of a place in their life where things they believe are in alignment with some kind of positive or negative stimuli. Like, if they're experiencing a lot of bad things in their life, they're gonna probably go down the road of like nihilism, and that might lead them to even become a danger to society. But you don't prevent, it's like, with school shootings, these people, it's kind of ironic, like the people who do them, or the kids typically who do them, they're not like typically the macho bullies who are like really mean and tough. They're the kids who are like so ostracized and so cut out that they feel like I don't want to romanticize this at all. This is just a material analysis, right? That they are in a social situation where they feel compressed, and like their self-expression, like they usually are bullied, right? That's typically what happens. They're just very bullied, and it's unfortunate that they're dealing with that. And the way to fix that is, you don't want to hyper isolate them. You don't want to let them fall into these pits of despair where they're at the fringe of social reality, and they can't do anything except like feel like walled off at all sides. They probably aren't connecting with their parents. They might not have like good sibling support systems, or maybe there's an abusive relationship there. And these are the things that lead a person to snap. It's unfortunate.
Yep, absolutely. No, like I've been in some pretty dark places, but it's doing something. If I've been so extroverted person, I would considered it. I guess my needs of like venting in that some of that insurance to take it. So I ended up hurting years more so as a result of me like being this, and being able to live harmoniously with me because it was one drama system.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much the same approach I take to like drug policy as well. Is
oh my god, I'm so sick of seeing people go to jail just for drugs.
Yeah.
Like I don't live in the U.S., but it's so freaking stupid for just like smoking weed. I don't even know how long the prison just fucking weed on.
No, some people are still in jail from like 20-year-old, convictions. It's horrible.
It's kind of funny because
Imagine being seen as someone who's like evil just because you smoke weed and like deserving pain.
I'm starting to think that they made drugs illegal because it makes people realize better, and because they're less under control. If everyone started doing psychedelics and it was a normal thing, people would become more aware and more sociable, and they wouldn't be as easy to control or convince.
There's definitely something to that.
Psychedelics and a lot of these like alternative mind altering practices, is that it restores a lot of like what you already were like as a kid before you went through the institutions that like creativity and full point of view. Back when your brain was in like theta mode, just like all you were was sponge for information and like programming.
That's very interesting how earlier we talked about this. And you were saying that, I don't know if it was Sev or Hat Guy, but one of you said that taking psychedelics or experiencing phenomena or something like that, I'm trying to relate, it's like, it's kind of similar to how you are when you're a child,
Yep.
that you're trying to understand everything.
Back to that state like immediately.
Which is
And
fun.
that's why psychedelics are actually it's for the mind expanding useful because it makes you self-aware of parts of you and like happy complete and
Hey, your mic keeps like flipping in and out. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yo, Sebs.
Yeah, no, you seem fine, Knight. I don't know if your mic is blipping, but hers is
it's
not
because
doing
someone
so.
entered.
Oh.
It's because someone just like came in.
I mean, I try and mute myself when I stop typing, but sometimes I forget.
You're fine. Go on.
But yeah, anything that we can do to create like even in just 3 generations of people being really careful of how they deal with children and like how they like treat themselves, like no, and understanding all the trauma that they went through, the better people you're gonna get because they're gonna have a stable sense of self. They're gonna be connected from day one. I mean, they're still gonna have like we're gonna get better problems. You know, like there's so many patterns that it just transgenerationally. You don't have to go on for so long. Like all it takes is one person and we to like, hey, when I knew about this, because I'm tired of the victims. Whatever the white man did 200 years ago, and we've been able to like facilitate just more healing and more promoting. So I to her perspective and everything, and how it felt to raise someone as like weird as me, and like she was going through her own stuff, and just understand everything. And you can't get to that point where you can like really truly forgive until you go through that like yourself. Sure, you can say, "Oh yeah, I let it go, I forgive them," but there's really no way to even spiritually guide to the person. You have to actually face and go back to like the original thing that like really hurt you, and it's hard to give up control like that. Sometimes people just really need drugs to like force themselves back into that like way of feeling and being. You don't have to.
Well, I'm unable to get any sort of drugs or psychedelics in my life, so I probably won't be taking any anytime soon, whether I want to or not. But see, if I had the opportunity, I would, because I don't know. I've tried knowing about it as much as I can, and I still don't see a reason it shouldn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, good man. You can get into states with even just some weed or some music or what.
Because I've never done it before.
Activities to do, like, have like an intent. You want to explore while I'm in this state, making clear.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to just get high and like be in. Like, no, it's supposed to like teach you something. You're supposed to build yourself.
Yeah, all of that. I would like to experience all of that, the realizations, the getting high, the whole thing. I don't.
One thing that I loved doing was to write a letter to my current self, but like imagining myself in different like ages. So I would write a letter to myself as like a little toddler or like as a kid and a teenager, and then kind of see like how they sound, like the progression of like their personality and like their worldviews and stuff like that, and what they would think like who I am today. Really interesting.
And Knight, by the way, don't fall into the trap of like seeing like different people's experiences with these things, and assuming that like because they do they act a certain way, like you're going to have like that kind of experience or you're going to be like that. That's not how they work. It's more because
Yeah, I know it depends on the person.
yeah, the social phenomena is certain types of people are going to be attracted to certain types of experiences, right? It's just a very basic idea. But
People like different things.
yeah, but when you defy that stereotype, you create, your own potential for unique experiences.
Yes.
I don't want to say like you have to do anything, right? It's just like you should seek out whatever you think is going to work out best for you in the end.
But you have to remember, I've never when this is. I have never experienced this. The only thing I have is all people's experiences. That's all I have. That's all I can work on. If I've never, I've never gotten high. I've never even drank. I have. I've never gotten drunk. I've never gotten drunk. Right. So I'm basically a kid in a sense, and when it comes to any of that stuff.
Well, that's a great thing. Like, oh my god, sometimes people get into drug addictions just so that they can get a sense of feeling innocent and like pure and like present again. Or like to just take care of it.
There's one thing I want to get into that I've been dying to get into. So you're given the idea that it's kind of similar to like a child trying to comprehend the world. When I actually can't relate to that at all because I honestly can't remember any of each other. I'm being serious. I can't remember anything, even if I try. I would only know if I was told what happened.
Are you older or younger than 17?
Of my memories.
Okay. Are you?
I'll tell you my age.
You don't have to. Just older or younger than 17.
I'll tell you DMs. Just
please, no. Just state it for the audience. Older or younger than 17.
Okay, I've actually told my age before in the server, but I don't think people remember. So right now, I am 16 years old.
Okay,
so I am quite young. Yeah, I'm quite young.
In that case, don't worry about any of this shit. You have so much freaking time ahead of you, dude. Like, so much time.
That's another thing. I think about the future a lot when it comes to my life and what it will be like. Not in the sense of just what will happen to me in the future, because it seems so uncertain what will happen. It's like anything could happen in my future, and I just don't know what. There's no... Kind of funny.
I feel like that's a good thing.
What efforts are you putting toward, like, I don't know, feeling more, like, grounded and, like, in control in the present? Because it sounds like you have a lot to sit there.
Yeah, I feel like because of my age, because I feel like I don't have as much control as I would like. But there's not really anything I can do about it in the literal sense until I'm older. One thing I really want to do is I have a lot of things that I want to do. I want to learn how to draw digitally. I want to learn how to play guitar because I really like music. That sounds basic, I know, but I really do.
That means that you have a very vivid imagination.
I have things that I want to do, but I'm not able to do them right now because I'm kind of like, well, I live in a house with my parents, and I can't do everything I want to do. Because I feel not that they're bad, it's just that when you're this age, you can't do everything you want to do. There's limits. And even though I've tried my best to do as much as I can, I came to this realization like a year ago or something that I kind of just have to. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my experience, I feel that I kind of just have to wait until I'm older, until it can actually happen. It's like time is on my side.
I feel like it also depends on what you exactly want.
Like in the meantime, that's kind of attractive. We're so focused on meeting the goal or getting the goal. So it's like, okay, what are we going to put? And how close are we going to be after all that stress to actually enjoy each other and the thing that we worked for? No, we'll be like separated and still stressed and pissed, and it's the next thing, you know?
Oh, I don't think my life will be perfect when I'm older. I know it will be a struggle. It always will be. But I feel that it would be better than right now. I don't want to get too deep, but I honestly feel like right now is possibly the worst time in my life. I might be wrong.
No, same here when I was 16, literally. I'm right there.
I don't think it's because of my age really. I think it's just that because I have felt this way for as long as I can remember really, even when I was younger. It's just that when I look back at my younger self, even though I'm still young, I mean like when I look back at my younger self, 13, 14, 15, is it concerning that I'm always filled with sadness? Like I don't take anything from it. I just feel like wow, that was unfortunate what happened to me. I've never felt that I've been in the wrong or that I've done something that's why I deserve that to happen.
Well,
And I really want all people to tell me how what they think about myself because I can't always depend on myself for realizations.
I don't think that it's a bad thing that you observe yourself feeling things. That's essentially the point of meditation. If you look back and you observe those feelings, then I think the best thing that you should do is notice how you're really separate from them. Like there's a you that's obviously connected to feelings of sadness, maybe, but there's the thoughts that are separate, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like
Yeah,
for
sorry
me,
to interrupt you guys. I joined late and I have no clue what you guys are talking about. So you guys went through abuse,
I think
is
we
my
were kind
guess,
of
or like?
going
Oh no,
into
no,
how
I've not.
you can have the same emotions like stored in your body, but you can change the thought processes around and toward them when they do resurface.
yeah.
Especially if you don't actually remember what created those emotions, it would probably be even better to kind of make some adjustments and make it mean something else, and then channel it like through your art, and definitely have people like see the work, like, and validate you, because it sounds like you weren't to the level where you can't even like remember your childhood because it's like you were ghosted. So that's not good.
To a degree, I actually felt similar to how he did. I used to have like this overarching depression over everything, or like sadness or something. But the thing I had to come to realization about it was just what I thought I felt, and it was completely made up because I needed some sort of drama going on for me to be thinking about things. You know, I needed a narrative.
That's survival thinking. I borderline personality traits, and it's literally like a it's a type of anxiety that like you have to like experience it to know what I'm talking about. When things are going too well, it does something to you where you are literally just making stuff up so that you have something to maintain your state of vigilance and adrenaline, and feeling like you have something to assert yourself against, so that everything doesn't just feel closed in.
Well, yeah. Think about like you know, we play video games for entertainment, right? What's a video game? A video game is a source of stress, basically.
Is it?
Yeah, exactly.
It can be.
You're basically testing your own ability to overcome extremely complex tasks for no reason other than to do that.
Yeah, something to entertainment.
So why wouldn't people create narratives for themselves, for them to come over?
What do you mean?
It's like, say, for example, with psychedelics. You take a psychedelic, if you're having a panic attack or you have anxiety, you're creating a narrative for you to be anxious about,
Right.
which we also do outside of psychedelic drugs.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
we do them through our naivete. Not because we're intentionally, like, twisted or evil or anything, or It's just part of the human condition.
Well, that's something people can actually struggle with, is the question of, am I evil? Like, that's a pretty common delusion. I mean, I don't, it's not even necessarily a delusion, you know. Obviously, people could be evil or something, but people start to question their own, like, self-determined narratives, and, you know, they may start to come to conclusions about themselves that are not always so flattering. That's what results in some more difficult trips for people. But,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, even that has value, because, you know, if there's a part of you that's feeling that deep down, and the psychedelic brought it out, then, you know, that's, whether it's the idea or yourself you need to face one of those things. So, you know, just get with it, I guess.
I guess that's why everyone would do their trick with me. New way of just making their emptiness feel better, I guess. So, like, I don't really do anything. I just make them work with them, put them in a nice different place with, like, music or whatever they want, and we don't charge anything, like, towards it. And apparently that's really, really good to do sometimes. I wish that it didn't have to be this, like, magical, like, fruit thing people have to be high for in order to, like, just go and do with someone who cares about them. You know, like,
I think that level of exposure can seem so foreign to some people who have engaged themselves with a narrative that is very convincing about their lives, about what they have to do and who they have to be, that it can almost be like a blinding light in a way,
oh yeah,
if you understand. And you know, to people like that, I don't recommend psychedelics. I mean,
oh man, I loved that. Like, I could never be
like
horrified in a
yeah.
wonderful
No,
and, like, so aware of myself and everything that I just needed to change. Like, my
there's a certain
black
stress.
in bed. I
There's a-
started using
There's a certain stress threshold I think you're not really supposed to cross with these things, to the point where you basically do more damage to yourself than good. I mean, obviously, you can experience bad things and not be in that threshold necessarily. Like, the negative thing is not necessarily the like, it's like sunlight, you know. You want a certain amount of sunlight. Too much, you're gonna burn, and there's no benefit to that. And you have some burnt skin. Sucks to be you. You know, there's an upper limit, I think. You know, you want to be just high enough so that you're not, like, engaged, so that you're not, like, you know, overexposing yourself to stimuli and you can't make sense of anything, and that's a real risk, obviously. But you also want to be able to challenge your own perceptions.
Yeah. You want to get to a point where you feel like you can actually consciously influence your thoughts and affect the hallucinations appearing around you. Or, like, to kind of appear how you want to do it. It's like, oh, what if I stare at the window and the curtain, the green curtain walking, and see if I can make any kind of switch it, like, super towards see it, like, just like, you just get, like, an appreciation for, like, how the brain can be so, like, compliant actually with what you tell it, so long as there's certain, like programs, like, not, you know, like, fronting or being in full effect. So, like, when you turn off, like, the thinking process and you're, like, fully present, it's
Yeah, you know, it can inspire over or underthinking as well. You know, you can get to such a extreme level of sensory exposure that, you know, thoughts can seem like loud or something. You know, your own thoughts can seem like too prevalent. Or you can also get to a state where, like, you're just thinking, and you lose your sense of self. Like, it's there's kind of like an edge of the blade, or edge of the knife thing here, where, like, you wanna tread that path to such a fine degree where you are consciously aware if you're falling off to either side or not, of thinking, underthinking, or overthinking.
You're so cooking ayahuasca in your kitchen to not do that. Just because you can make it in the plants doesn't mean you should. you're 18 and like 100 pounds, and this is your first time doing it. Like, oh my god, I was an idiot.
Did you like throw up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when that happens, you've taken too much.
For like 12 hours, and then I was on the couch and been for like an eternity.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. People can get sick from taking like alcohol or psychedelics. I actually forgot about that.
My first time taking a psychedelic, it was LSD when I was 14.
Oh man.
Yeah, I got it from my friend's older brother, and I took it in my room, and what brought me onto looking into it was I met a guy online who was a couple years older than me. His name was Jared. I'm not friends with Jared anymore, sadly.
They're always named Jared.
Yeah, they're always named Jared, yeah. But he was a really cool guy, and he's a really smart guy, but he kind of went to the dark side, let's put it like that. His mental health went really down, and he wouldn't listen to people, so I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Wasn't ready to and didn't be able to.
Mm-hmm. He also introduced me to philosophy, though, which was cool. So that's... Without him, I wouldn't be who I am today at all.
I have a couple of people like that, too. Some who, I guess, never came back from... I'm glad that I met them when they were just, like, the stage in their downward spiral, where they were really cool, and, like, I resonated with them, but
yeah,
they differently took things too far, and I can, like, relate to them anymore. But I love the movies, the things that happen to me, too.
mm-hmm.
It sucks, man. Not all of us make it out, like, all right. I'm just so grateful to be who I am today.
Do any of us make it out all right?
The barista job, like...
I think it's just a long tunnel, no exit. We gotta keep marching.
Well,
sometimes it'll feel good, sometimes it won't.
I'm over the idea of the belief of, like, life being this, like, labyrinth filled with, like, traps. And think of it more like a collaborative, like, puzzle game.
Well, unironically, the way you...
Other people to...
I think about it like a walk. It's just a long walk. And your thoughts torment you like, bruh, are we getting to the end? Are we getting any closer? And then you realize there's not really an end. That was it. You're just kind of hanging out. It's like, shouldn't have made it so damn complicated, man.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really fun to ponder, like if you don't believe in for life, like these things I did, they're super realistic. It's kind of like imagining living life would actually be, and it's like, I can't do it. It was like really cool. Some of it actually sounded like what near-death experiencers describe, like their experiences of the spirit world and how it works and like what souls are due to do and stuff like that. And that got me thinking, like, so we were a consciousness and all of this forever and foreverness and, you know, energy to play with. Like, how are you going to keep yourself entertained? Like, how are you going to, like, realize your own potential and stuff? Like, you split yourself into an infinite amount of pieces to, like, look at your own self in every possible way. That's kind of what I assume, like, souls.
I think people shouldn't try looking at themselves. Because when you look in the mirror, you're like a vampire, bro. There's nothing there. You're the expression as it is.
That's actually the esoteric meaning of it, is when you look in the mirror, you don't really see yourself as much as you see an expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually kind of funny. Like, I look at myself in the mirror a lot, and I always forget what I look like. Like, the day later. It's
Oh, go on, sorry.
I didn't have I was gonna say, like, my mind, like, because I'm always thinking about everything, but, like, I feel that a lot of it just isn't important. It's just me stressing myself out. Like, it comes when I think about myself, it's like, it's just so confusing. I can't figure anything out about myself, and yet I think so much about it, and I'm like, so I look in the mirror I see myself, okay, looking good, and then like a day later, I'll look in the mirror again, and now my views are completely different. It's like I'm a different person every week. It doesn't make sense, and I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. It's just the way I operate mentally, and it does. It seems like it doesn't matter if I try to change it or not. It just comes and goes as it is.
Yeah, sometimes like you do everything you can to not be in that state, and then other times maybe it's trying to like teach you something, and you just have to like lean into it and be like, it's okay to feel bad sometimes, but like you got to catch yourself when you're feeding that state and keep going too. So it's kind of like you just let me hold it and then you let it ride the wave, and then don't do anything to try to escape from it or anything impulsive to like numb it. That's the tricky part. I could not do that. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's the trick I learned is like to combat any personal sense of like a manic state, right? Is you have to learn that patience is a very important thing to internalize, and like to understand that like you can feel a certain way in one moment, and like that you can think that like this is such an important thing to your life, and there's everything's coming down to a certain moment or whatever, and then you have to take a step back, I think, and realize that for me this was basically the cure, is that every day is its own unique experience. You don't have to worry about accomplishing everything in one day, and just learn to appreciate whatever small steps you take towards what you want.
Absolutely. Sometimes you gotta take it like minute by minute. It's like I'm gonna do my best without any distractions for like a minute. Even if it's just like going and splashing cold water on my face.
Yeah.
Just because it feels nice, and there's no expectations from it. It's not to serve anyone else but me. You take that moment, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, like I kind of had to like put into words like the correct way to formulate patience in my head. Like I used to kind of say to myself, patience is stupid because we can figure out the best things to do at all times, but
oh my god. I'm
yeah.
sorry, but like your baseline psychological functioning just reminds me of someone very close to me.
Yeah.
It's yeah. People like you actually. See. I have patience galore. I have so much patience. People sit here for 20 years and not get anything done because it's like you fail at it. Oh, it's gonna suck, and nobody's gonna care, kind of thing. But yeah, people like you who, I guess, introduce a little bit of friction and ask hard questions actually gets me like chugging along, and it's really nice. And then in turn, I get to help people like you slow down.
No, and that's the best aspect of it is, when you slow down, you can actually start to appreciate the other people's perspective and opinions, and the intricacies of different ways you can analyze things.
Yeah. But if you never take initiative, then you're always like
right.
the whims of like the group or like other people, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's balance again.
Kind of better. Yeah, that's why I've been starting so many groups like recently. It's just like, man, I gotta get back disappearing from agent for like years at a time. I think this. Yeah, I'm not leaving. I don't have it in me. Here now.
Does that actually? I've actually also. I've said this like 5 times before, so I'm not gonna drag it on. I did also leave the server twice, but the first one was because my account got logged off. Oh, I was trying to make a new account, but I couldn't get in, and I had to wait a month until Hat Guy's gaming channel came up.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It was just unfortunate. Then the second time, it was like second time was a mix of me just not using Discord a lot and also just feeling a little overwhelmed. It's like this server's great, but there's so many different opinions from so many different people all at the same time. It just feels, it feels kind of
Analysis paralysis.
Not really. I'm trying to figure out what word I had. It was like unreal. Like it felt 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 pretty wild. That's the only word. I had a better word for it, but I can't remember.
Even on this channel the other day, I noticed some rando coming in and like throwing the N-word around. I was just like, ooh, I haven't seen that since like 2016 or something in like a total.
Are you talking about the guy who was in like the global warming channel or something like that?
Yeah, he was just like, oh, so you guys have like birds
Yeah.
there too. It's like.
That
I
guy.
was like,
no
are you
birds in
an
China.
actual real person? Like, bro.
Well, that person was, you know, if I can assume the profile picture is correct, is an actual black person.
Okay, like I hoped it was
Also,
things like
make it
that. Like,
okay.
is that your word to just use and throw around in a space where there's like potentially like hundreds of people looking at you? Like, oh my god.
It all
Yeah.
comes down to
That
how
makes
they
me
were
feel better,
raised.
but like, holy shit. There's white people in here that shouldn't be laughing at your joke, man.
It was very random. It was like basically the third thing he ever posted on this server.
Oh my god. It's like,
Yeah, there's a lot of wild people in this.
guns
Oh, and by the way, he started out not posting in the server, but by messaging me and trying to start a conversation about underground mole people or something.
Wait, I think I know who you're talking about.
Well, yeah, you can go to the freaking channel and check for your damn self.
Which one is it? I actually forget.
I'm not gonna say any names.
Oh, shit.
No, don't. But just tell me the truth.
I don't even want to know the details. That was good enough.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, global warming, probably the least of my worries, to be honest. But
And is give
Get
the globe a nice toasty.
sure, I mean, I heard somewhere that global warming was always a thing, and it's just that humans have kind of sped it up because, you know, civilization and whatnot.
Okay,
And
personally, I think there's a conspiracy, okay? I think the people who live in the cold climates want global warming.
I live in a.
Here.
I want to tax myself, but I don't want global warming. I actually
You're
want.
letting out the secrets, man.
You guys use Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Fahrenheit is the old way of doing it.
Okay.
What is a
Oh, yeah,
kilometer?
In the UK, you guys use Celsius. Yeah, it's been like plus 30 Celsius, where
Don't get a lot.
that's how it is in the summer, and it's like
Kilo travel a
easily
meter.
negative 30 Celsius in the winter. Like very extreme, like
Isn't
extreme range there.
isn't Fahrenheit like the more, I guess, old-fashioned way of measuring, not measuring, declaring temperature, and Celsius is like what it's like. It's like the new way of doing it. It's like the new and more efficient.
I guess so.
Isn't Fahrenheit
I
more?
feel like it's always been there for me in Canada, the UK as well. That's like changed recently. I
Like-
don't know.
Where, like, I feel like different people, like, I know, I actually know about Celsius and Fahrenheit, and I think there's another one, but I don't think anyone uses it.
What, like Kelvin or something?
Yeah, Kelvin.
Or me measuring like the sun?
Yeah, what the fuck is Kelvin?
It's really, really hot. Oh no,
There's-
wait, we
there's-
also have
there's-
something
there's-
called like skull rolls.
It's the measurement we used on our moms 20 years ago.
What? Are you sure that's what Kelvin is?
Yes.
Kelvin. That's the name. But, like, yeah, there's Fahrenheit, there's Celsius, then there's Kelvin. I know what Fahrenheit is. I actually think Fahrenheit is better, despite it being the old way of doing it because it's more Pacific.
Now
But-
it's negative 10 Fahrenheit.
Well, I actually forgot, like, the whole thing with Fahrenheit because I use Celsius more, so I actually forget, like, I think if it's minus, I think it's 10 Fahrenheit. No, okay, I don't know. I thought I did, but I'll have to look it up again. But I did know both the measurements. But yeah, the temperature are pretty wild, you know.
I live in Chicago, so tell me about it, man.
Oh, do you?
Sunburn and frostbite in the same week. Hell
You-
yeah.
It sounds
You-
like you're gonna
Wait till you find out where that guy lives. You could say
Alabama.
you could.
I live in the middle of a field of flowers.
The
Okay.
Midwest. The Midwest.
I have no awareness of what state I live in. It's simply that it is a field of flowers somewhere.
I
It's
want
funny
to,
because I've never been to America at all, and yet I know all of the stereotypes about living in certain areas.
I want to move in a giant field with an old Soviet-era building and remodel the whole thing and just live in a field and grow
I would
farm out
love,
front.
I would love to live in a rural area, like just surrounded by forest and nature. Sounds wicked. I would love that.
Bunch of solar panels, live in my
Oh, well,
story.
I wouldn't do that whole thing.
House.
It doesn't even have to be like a big house. It can be like a cabin, and I would still be happy because I'm surrounded by deer.
Okay, guys. I think I gotta wrap it up for now. At least the recording.
Okay.
You can feel free to talk on your own. I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna stop recording, and I'm just gonna chill for a little bit.
Are you gonna do this every time you join VC?
Just whenever the vibe is right. I don't know.
You should make the server for this, and oh yeah, you will have to eat the apple again.
Yep,
can
got
we
it.
call it something cool like
Hey guy, I'll talk to you more about it in DM. Because
What?
can we call it something cool? Like, I don't know, like the High Council or some shit.
We'll see. We'll see. Let me brainstorm some stuff later.
The boys.
No.
Council of Sped.
Go hang out with
The gamers club.
Yes, the high quality gamer boy league.
High. Getting high with that guy.
The special ed zone.
I have a joke. Do you want to hear the joke I made myself? Okay, here's the joke. I created this joke. Okay, it goes like this.
Wait.
The kid goes up-
I need to get ready. I need to prep myself to hear the joke. Okay, here we go. I am ready.